Oh, how quickly a year passes by, and how horrifyingly quickly technology adapts as well. From the time it's taken to get from Christmas to Christmas, the development, advancement, and overbearing invasion of AI in animation cannot really be understated this last year. And we've been freshly covering the advancing news, so today we're going to take a trip down memory lane. Ironically, you'll also get to see the changing of my hairstyle and set design throughout this whole thing. But starting from Christmas last year, when humans were uncanny and hilarious, to Google Nano Banana these days being practically imperceptible. Please enjoy this harrowing montage of the development of AI in animation over the year. And who knows, maybe if we're optimistic, we could even say this is the peak. We haven't yet hit the point of major profitability or public opinion being too grand on AI animation, so I guess we'll just have to see how that turns out in 2026, eh? Anyway, for now, let's enjoy our very first installment with Christmas 2024. Where do I even begin with this? Yes, it is true. Coca-Cola now have officially brought us into the next era of what is going to be the commercial industry from now on. Get on board, because it's unstoppable now. Coca-Cola have made, actually, a fully AI-generated advert. The new postmodern humans are optional era of creation is here. And of course, this sparks so many red flags in so many directions. I actually cannot believe we've made it to this point. I mean, like, I knew eventually someone was gonna make a fully AI-generated advert, but Coca-Cola? Like, really? One of the most profitable companies of absolutely all time. The actual king of profiting off of business. The company that legitimately probably makes billions upon billions of dollars. That's the company that wants to cut short paying human beings. I am so distraught on the fact that this is the first Christmas video of the year I'm making, and we're talking about full AI generation. What you're seeing on screen, if you aren't already in the know, is fully AI generated. Or at least, you know, majority AI. I wouldn't be surprised if they did some actual editing to make the Coca-Cola logo look like a Coca-Cola logo, since AI can't write yet. But this is really the marker of the end days. This format of a Coca-Cola Christmas advert as well is part of a franchise, if you want to call it that. The Holidays Are Coming commercials is a cultural centerpiece for a lot of people and the Christmas season. Being a whole set of adverts started since 1995, they all have, you know, this general look. There is the big Coca-Cola truck, maybe a big Coca-Cola train, Santa Claus, you know, shows up, shares around Coca-Colas. We all go, oh, hey, we love capitalistic consumerism. Call it a day, make billions of dollars, move on, have a Christmas family fun time. But to turn this into AI is just betrayal in every direction. There are so many families out there that mark specifically the release of the yearly Coca-Cola Christmas advert as the marker for the beginning of the Christmas season. The moment of, hey, let's get into the spirit of Christmas. And now, there is no spirit anymore. Literally a soulless re-rendition, the most cliched, mixed together version they could come up with nary a single person properly paid for their skill set. Notice how when we're showing the full AI generated version, the shots are shorter. Probably because give it more than 2 seconds and each one of these shots probably melts down into a blobby AI mess. Now, as someone who's seen the slow advent of AI sort of come along and make its mark known, I can very much easily see what makes this AI generated. You know, the polar bears might look like polar bears, but just the way they move, you know, every AI has that same motion of turn slightly to the side. But to me as well, I think it really says something that they've actually included a shot of humans in this advert. To just outright say, we're not going to even pay actors anymore to smile for brand anymore. Keep the humans equally as soulless as the corporation that inherited this brand. A notable feature of all of these Holidays Are Coming commercials is the fact that Santa Claus appears, and now Santa Claus doesn't appear. Who needs him? Just show off his hands. It's a miracle it actually looks like hands this time. Now, this advert came out 2, maybe 3 days ago now, and like, there is somewhat of a backlash, but it will never be enough. Let's be honest here. This is a marker that this is going to be here to stay now, and it's I am so deeply disappointed by this. And to be fair, I'm not entirely surprised. I'm just surprised it happened so quickly, to be honest. The way I see it, a lot of the older generation will witness this and not even notice it's AI. Fair enough, you sort of have to have a certain eye to it. It is getting surprisingly realistic. You can tell if you can tell, you can't if you can't. Middle-aged people, maybe it's a 50-50 on whether they can tell or not. Fine, it's all a media literacy thing anyway. But more notably, what I was sort of expecting to be the trajectory for AI-generated Slop is the younger generation that are going to grow up surrounded by this aren't going to care about whether it is creatively genuine, right? If you're growing up surrounded by this stuff, I think you wouldn't care if that stuff exists, because it always has from your perspective. I kind of thought it would take another generation for people to be like, it's there, I don't care. Everyone else will be like, oh no, this is terrible, don't show me this. But no, I think this is happening a lot faster. I think the unfortunate case is there is a relatively small element of the population, the real artsy-fartsy creative people that have a semblance of an opinion about art, that reject this, and then you're either too unaware to actually care, or you will be so fully engrossed in it that you won't care instead. And even if there is a large amount of backlash coming out about AI-generated content, I think it will always end up being the case, especially now, that the corporations just don't care anyway. The fact that this is being done by the Coca-Cola, the multi-billion, probably trillion-dollar company at this point. They are, I've said it before, they're literally number one. They specifically can't be shot down for this AI-generated stuff. I think they are unboycottable, They can get away with saving multi-millions of dollars making this advert in the first place. And with it now, all sorts of other companies are probably also going to follow, because if we let Coke get away with this, and they will absolutely get away with this, everyone else will start doing it, and they'll get away with it too. Now, who is it we can blame for an AI-generated Coke movie? All sorts of people. Everyone higher up in this corporation to some regard, of course, will have had to have passed hands on this to be made, each individual platforming it one way or another. But we do actually have a spokesperson to defend this commercial this time around, in the form of Javier Meza, who is the EU Chief Marketing Officer at Coca-Cola. First of all, coming out and saying that AI was not the initial plan. They didn't come out to just make an AI advert because screw you. Specifically, the way they go on to justify it is, the brief was, we want to bring holidays are coming into the present, and then we explored AI as a solution to that. Simply enough, they say it's just, this is the modern world, screw you, we're just keeping up with the times. Forget artistic integrity, forget the spirit of Christmas, human spirit, soul, unneeded, brand, that'll do it. Funnily enough, in fact, completely ironically to that last point, another spokesperson went on to say, it demonstrates Coca-Cola's commitment to embracing innovation, leveraging our collaborations with top creative and technology partners while staying true to its core values, spreading happiness and creating real magic. Ironic! I don't see anything fucking real here. And look at all the happiness this advert's bringing out. Ha! Now listen. Not everything AI related is always necessarily the worst thing in the world, right? I think AI as a buzzword is very much something that's skyrocketed in places where it's not even needed. It's kind of replacing the word algorithm or anything remotely requiring processing power. I technically have AI work involved in every video I've released in the last year, in the fact that I have a plugin that automatically cuts out the gaps between my pauses in recording booths. So if you've ever noticed I don't typically breathe in, probably because I use some sort of plug-in to automatically cut it out. It's not exactly taking away someone's job. There's not a job of someone specifically cutting out the breathes in. It's my job to cut out the breathes in. I'm cutting out my own job. It's just, the difference with that is it's an AI tool built for efficiency within a pre-existing job. This AI generative content is directly replacing people's jobs and just filling the void so that someone at the top gets to spend even less money for their work. Hey there, thank you for making it halfway through this video. Do subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know if you want me to talk about commercials more. Maybe this is a new genre I can cover on this channel. Anyway, I'll let you get back to the rest of us angry rambling about Coca-Cola AI crap. At a time when economically, globally, it is looking terrible. We got inflation making prices extortionate, like in the UK, we've got a lovely cost of living crisis. Hey, US, look forward to yours soon. And then from an actual physical element, we have shrinkflation taking over every product, where everything's more expensive and somehow tinier. Oreos are bloody tiny from when they started, and don't get me started on bloody Toblerone. So to see that when things are so much more expensive and we're getting less per thing, now as well, actual jobs are just being completely replaced by robots is just so unendingly disappointing. Especially from a brand like Coca-Cola that could have easily been the bastion of, hey, let's do things right and ethically for once. It's interesting as well, because actually the only other brand that particularly jumps out to me this current Christmas is Oreo, of all things. Maybe not nearly as on the same level as actual Coca-Cola. Massively different in profit success, but Oreo, at least locally here, has completely exploded as they've had an interesting Christmas campaign of rolling out 1 million Oreo collaborations and tastes that somehow shouldn't work, but so far have every time. They've released a gingerbread Oreo that apparently surprisingly works, as well as cans of, ironically, oh look at this crossover, Oreo mixed with Coca-Cola Zero, which I actually surprisingly like. It tastes just like a Coke float. And I think it just goes to show, as much as that one is also Coke to a certain extent, just the ways in the modern world how you can present a Christmas campaign in a far more ethical manner. One is cutting corners, making less work for yourself by AI generating a robot to do something for you that would otherwise create so many jobs and allow people to actually afford the food they're buying. But no, cut them out early on and save yourself a buck. Or actually put in some extra work yourself and explore your brand to developing new experiences and new products for consumers to enjoy. This is a very niche example. I don't think Oreo's doing a million crazy things, and probably as well have all sorts of unethical things attached to the brand if I looked into it more. But that's the kind of direction I would like to see more corporations do, you know? Explore with your brand and make good stuff, hiring new people for new experiences. This is just like... This is endgame stuff, you know? We're raising prices, shrinking product size, and now culling out jobs and the enjoyment factor of what is otherwise just more corporatism. It's just consume product. How have you screwed up consume product at this point? And with this now being so set in stone in the middle of its cultural centerpiece, this is only the start of the end. I've already heard around that there are fully AI-generated movies. I thought there was an AI-generated movie a little early on. It was just an unfortunate art style and poster design. And while I personally don't think a full AI-generated movie is really going to pop off, maybe as a short film at most, but like I think it's more of a gimmick than an actual selling point. Maybe more of an integration between AI and, you know, actually designing something that functionally can type a word out. Even then, I'm hesitant. I feel like they're more on the level of NFT movies, if that makes sense. But at least on the commercial advert front, I can fully see AI just completely taking over. A lot of these things are already pretty uncanny valley and soulless with the way they make their actors act, so just outright removing the actors makes sense to me. Now, ironically enough as well, I was actually at one point part of a production company that would work on commercials. It's actually what I did with my film degree a little bit, with my film collection of friends. Again, as well, it was very much just a freelance company that would be approached to do commercial work for other corporations. So while it's not directly removing jobs within Coca-Cola to make an AI advert like this, it's just deleting an entire business model for something that I think will always get a little bit of backlash, but will slowly be a quietened voice as it just becomes the forced upon us norm. And especially as AI is only getting better and better, at some point it will be hard to notice. It's funny, in the Coca ad, there is a tiny little text that says, hey, this was made by some AI model, haha. We ain't gonna notice. No one ever reads the fine print in these things. And one day I too will be too old to even notice that something's not real in the first place. It really is, I think, emblematic of the new era that we are now moving into as a weird dystopian technological world that we are in. We've got strikes ongoing or past from all sorts of quadrants on it, whether it's voice actors or actors. Now maybe the commercial district will do it. Is there a union for commercialism? I don't know. It's more of a US thing than a UK thing. Of course, as well, on the wider political scale of things, obviously, corporation regulations will be getting more and more lax, and maybe it's a little bit better here in the EU. But I mean, this Coca-Cola representative is part of the EU branch, so, you know, I guess they get away with it there as well. And whilst once upon a time, the holidays are coming, Christmas Coca-Cola advert commercial could be seen as the bastion of the true spirit of Christmas incoming. Now it is step one in the future of soulless, branded cyberpunk dystopia, really. Like, this feels like an origin story for a real dystopian cyberpunk world that we're yet to roll into. That's honestly how I feel about it now. I have like a headcanon, a prediction, I guess, if you will, of like future content creators and general people probably going more into hiding and leaning more into an incognito identity. Because as well, with the advent of AI and now AI face recognition being a thing that's probably only going to develop worse and worse, I can see us getting to a point where maybe for the next generation, hiding your identity online will become the norm again. Unlike our generation of schmucks that had entire Facebook accounts, I feel like we're going to go back into that. Everyone's going to become a VTuber or something in the hopes of hiding away from otherwise having your face plastered onto this kind of AI-generated schlop. I don't know. I genuinely have never felt more like a hermit under a rock after seeing this is actually being presented on the biggest stage at a pivotal cultural point of the year. I don't know, man. I don't know necessarily whether adverts and commercials is necessarily a genre my audience would be interested in hearing about, and especially on the AI front. Clearly, I have a lot of opinions when it comes to AI and commercialism. I did not expect to be talking about this for over 20 minutes, at least in the recording booth. But I wanted to get out at least one more distraught voice out there, because as I said way earlier on in the video, there will never be enough backlash for stuff like this. I'm a big fan of the artsy-fartsy stuff, and so to see an absolute takeover like this, so blatantly soulless and actively damaging to, you know, people's lives to a certain extent, I wish the world could be better, but we're just falling deeper and deeper into hell, it seems. As someone who keeps a strong eye on the creative industry, it's a shame to see it falling down another step. And unfortunately, with a corporation like this, I just think Coca-Cola is too big to boycott. So this is the new norm. Welcome to the new era, everybody. Let's only hope that Pepsi comes out with a big point about they would never make AI-generated crap. To be fair, in the argument between Coca-Cola and Pepsi, I was always a Dr. Pepper fan. Please, Dr. Pepper, don't do anything too unethical. Have you already done it? What's happened? Oh god, Dr. Pepper's just a subsidiary of Coca-Cola. No! Coke will go on to never make another AI animation advert ever again, right? Well, at the very least, the next thing we have on our list is the drama surrounding Disney and Universal making an AI lawsuit. A lawsuit against AI, I should clarify. A totally dark time for AI animation, but interesting to see how the big wigs first reacted to AI, since it is blatant IP copyright infringement. Ooh, we're talking about generative AI slop today. You've probably seen a lot of it by now, and if I were to guess, I'd wager you probably hate it too. So does Disney and Universal, apparently, which is good, because every time I see it, it just feels dystopian. You know, AI has sound now. It's getting ridiculous. We don't typically cover AI content on this channel. The last time we did was about an AI Santa ad, of which apparently there's way more these days. AI, not Santa, it's June. But these two Hollywood giants are filling out a joint lawsuit against AI image generator service Midjourney for copyright infringement. Good! Finally, some progress. Or at least that sounds good on paper, but what exactly is happening here? And is this actually a big deal? Like, where does this go? This is a big thing. I mean, let's just start with some context. So Midjourney was an AI model that went into open beta back in 2022 that offered users the ability to quickly generate an image based off of a prompt that they input. Sounds like an interesting tool on paper, but the results typically aren't great. First and foremost, the result is usually full of strange artifacting, and this is because, unlike traditional art, the generative AI model is not actually a drawing. Instead, it's just mimicking existing final products it's already seen based on an image generation algorithm. And in order to create an algorithm like this, you need to feed an AI a lot of art. AI image generators take in source art to learn how to do a style, and then replicate that style based on a user-inputted prompt. This means that building an algorithm like this naturally requires a lot of data. And the way that most of these AI companies go about collecting that data is by scraping existing art from the internet without any copyright permissions. And in this modern world, there's been very little that artists on the ground can actually do to combat AI art scrapers. It's kind of just a reality that if you post art on the internet, it's pretty likely to get scraped. Anything on Twitter now has part of their terms and conditions that they can use it. Anything generally available can be scrubbed if someone's able to search for your image. And even me and one of my most popular videos, the terrible Lego movie ripoff, I found out a few months ago has been fed into some AI algorithm, and I can't sue them, so it's just out there. Thankfully, it was not a very well edited video, so I don't mind that much, I guess. While artists can actively filter their results with a tool like Nightshade, there's not much that can really be done about legacy animated content, for example, a lot of which has already been sourced for these models. And while this practice of scraping has caused other lawsuits before, this particular suit is the very first one from a major Hollywood corporation against generative AI. And it's really something when you consider that, Universal and Disney, that they're rivals that are coming together to combine this lawsuit. AI art is by nature going to be creatively derivative, and is probably also art theft. But that's not exactly what Disney and Universal seem to be worried about in this specific lawsuit. They seem more concerned with AI art's capacity to destroy their business model through rapid image generation. And the fact that both giant studios have combined together just shows how seriously they're taking this. In fact, they have a history of direct competition with each other that pretty much encapsulates every branch of both companies. From films to theme parks, Disney and their rival Universal, owned by parent company Comcast, seem to always be neck and neck. So it takes a pretty big threat to their power for something to be seen as a common enemy to them. But apparently Midjourney is that big enough threat. And honestly, it makes a lot of sense. Both of these companies are intellectual property powerhouses. Disney famously has been spending billions of dollars over the past few decades buying up IP to include under its umbrella. From the Jim Henson Company to Pixar to Marvel to Lucasfilms to Fox, Disney is all about buying and controlling the use of IP. Universal is much the same. Their entire business model is based on using and controlling these IPs too. Generative AI, however, threatens this very model by being a really powerful tool for creating art that is derivative of other work really fast. And this is of course because generative AI scrapes existing art in order to train their models, so it's good at replicating that existing art. And so of course, this means that it's really good at making stuff from IPs that Disney and Universal would rather have complete control over. Or at least shoved into a vault or something. Illumination, a studio under Universal, has taken a stand against AI before, using the Minions to poke fun at AI image generation in the lead up to Despicable Me 4. So it's been something at least on the minds of the animators and creatives for a while, but it's now a big enough talking point that the legal side of Universal has actually gotten involved. On the other hand, regarding the other plaintiffs' involvement here, the Walt Disney Company has, in particular, lobbied for the strengthening of US copyright laws over and over again in order to maintain complete control over its IP. So this sort of lawsuit is not at all out of character for the company. That said, there is more of an interesting topic when talking about Disney and AI, as they did recently allow the use of an AI voice model of James L. Jones to be used for Darth Vader in Fortnite. What is this timeline? And that has also led to him saying some pretty heinous things, but also has been patched. Even still, a lot of the things he did say don't exactly endear Disney to their AI experiment very much, and also kicked up a fuss in the voice actors guilds, so, According to an email from Horatio Gutierrez, who is representing Disney legally in this case, we are bullish on the promise of AI technology and optimistic about how it can be used responsibly as a tool to further human creativity. But piracy is piracy, and the fact that it's done by an AI company does not make it any less infringing. So it's not exactly that Disney hates AI. They do seem to like it, in fact. They just don't like having their copyright infringed, which makes a service like Midjourney the perfect target for legal action from the media giant. It's about IP, not actually AI. Kind of. On the other hand, it seems like Universal is more concerned about their employees. Kim Harris, who is representing NBC Universal in the case, had the following to say in his own separate email. We are bringing this action today to protect the hard work of all the artists whose work entertains and inspires us, and the significant investment we make in our content. So yeah, Universal definitely has the better stance here, but it makes sense that from either perspective, copyright law is the way to go, because For sure, AI image generation seems at the bare minimum to be legally dubious in terms of how it interacts with US copyright laws. And if you really want to dig into things about how US policy works, the big beautiful bill that just passed also had an excerpt that AI stuff can be run unregulated for the next 10 years. So at least in that sense, on autopilot mode, without lawsuits getting in the way and changing laws, AI is kind of able to run rampant. And it would take a lawsuit of this scale and this much capital behind it that would make any kind of dent on its current trajectory. Now, Midjourney's entire financial model is built upon subscriptions for image generation, and if I were to ask Midjourney to generate an image based on a copyrighted franchise, it wouldn't hold back. In fact, it would probably do it better than it could do something wholly original. If I were to ask it to generate a Shrek image, for example, it could probably do it so well that it could be mistaken as a real still from a movie by the average onlooker. In fact, I know it can do this because this was actually a real thing brought up in the lawsuit. According to the New York Times, these 4 Midjourney generated images were brought up in the lawsuit specifically. There's this AI generated Shrek, AI Vader, AI trio of minions, and an AI generated Spider-Man, and some less convincing others like AI Elsa too. Now they're all flawed under scrutiny, though I do have to say that Shrek one is actually more convincingly official than the others, though of course it is also informed by referential poses as well, so that probably contributes. But the point is that they all feel like they're going for a cinematic, official look, with Disney and Universal's precious IPs nonetheless. AI models feed on existing art, and these two companies are a massive provider of existing art to those models. Thousands of hours of their content available online for an AI to just observe and take from. Not only that, there is a nearly infinite well of fan art from these IPs online. AI is therefore uniquely equipped to flood the market with these cheap knockoff images. And while neither industry giant likely has much care for the small independent artist, in this endeavor, whatever happens as a result of this lawsuit will probably have massive ripples that affect the art world as a whole going forwards, which is generally pretty damn good news. I don't know if it's exactly going to solve my current Playmobil movie, lost in the void of AI-generated algorithms, but hey, any news is good news. And if Disney and Universal are able to draw a hard line at least on their own content and win their own legal battle, it opens the floodgates for other companies to attempt to do the same. Disney and Universal are rightfully concerned about the output of these image generators and about where they go next, because as far as they are concerned, AI models are a huge plagiarism generator that threatens their copyrights. And at the end of the day, AI technology is going to keep evolving. Though Midjourney started a whole 3 years ago, AI as a developing form is getting more and more imperceivable as AI. You used to be able to tell because of the artifacting, then it was the 6 fingers, and now they can speak and emote and sound as well. We're just on the edge where anyone can be fooled. Give it another 3 years and who knows where the hell we're at. And that's how long it takes to make a quick Disney movie from start to finish. And without regulation, AI is going to encroach more and more into Disney and Universal's territory. And everybody else's too. If there's ever a point where an AI version of this body on this set with this voice starts talking to you, at least you can know that you'll have to come to this channel specifically to know for certain you're seeing the real thing. It's kind of the only assurance I've got. So hey, I guess we'll take that as an excuse to subscribe to make sure you're seeing a real human being. I guess. Despite how obviously self-centered their motivation is, I really do want Disney and Universal to be successful in this lawsuit. I don't just want them to settle, you know? I fear that if they do so, it might just be a temporary band-aid fix that doesn't actually address the problem. Though the big corpo animation world may have all sorts of red flags for the people on the ground, a fight like this could very well be the good fight that represents all of us. And at the end of the day, a win for Disney and Universal here is probably good in the overall fight against AI slop. And that's probably good for the everyday artist. Now that you've heard the arguments from the studios, here's Midjourney's response. AI, it's just getting worse and worse. A few weeks back, Disney and Universal shocked the animation world by announcing that they were actually teaming up to jointly sue AI company Midjourney for copyright infringement. Specifically, they were after the image generator's ability to create images using their licensed content, which, you know, cuts into their IP business. And probably breaks copyright law? I talked about the suit in a video previously, which you can see linked down below, but already, there's been some updates on the side from several different areas. You gotta love now that this is just the norm. AI is just around invading every industry. That horrible, horrible plague that's been creeping into all sorts of creative ventures. Even not attached to this particular lawsuit, more and more horrible AI-generated movies are being made, and it seems like it's starting to get further and further into the corporate mainstream too. Tons of companies are looking to replace their employees with AI, and even directly on my end, YouTube has started recommending me AI-invented thumbnails and titles for inspiration, as if I can't work out what to make. Also similarly involving direct Disney copyright image infringement. I don't know if they do it via Midjourney or what system they work with, but hey, it's meant to be made conveniently for me, but it's only convenient for me to look and laugh and show it to you sometimes if you want. It's a bittersweet thing to see all the time. But fortunately, the technology is mired in controversy, and not just from the workers and artists having their livelihood threatened, but by several big owning IP companies as well, which will hopefully lead the charge. That being said, not all of the updates with this particular Midjourney lawsuit are all good, specifically because there are some updates from the Midjourney side of things. So far, Midjourney has refused to comment on the multi-million-dollar lawsuit, but that doesn't stop them saying something through their project. Specifically because a new AI tool was added to their suite of services, announced just a week after the lawsuit. Midjourney has, despite the onset of these suits, introduced their new V1 visual model. It's a new video generator that, you guessed it, allows them to generate AI-made footage based on what a user inputs. It's similar to other AI generators, and the results are about what you'd expect. Basically, you can ask it to make something and boom, AI slop right there. But this one has a bit more complexity compared to AI generation models of the past, specifically because the software lets its users either animate the image from them based on its own analysis, or try to animate based on user inputted text. It also has things like low motion and high motion modes as well, allowing users to customize their animation, which is a really bad thing specifically if you're Disney, especially with the kind of degenerate animations some users have been making. That said, according to Wired magazine, there's something quite interesting going on with the generator: limitations. It seems that Midjourney has put in place guardrails to stop their new AI tools from generating certain copyrighted content, with Wired reporting that this has stopped prompts based on Frozen's Elsa, Boss Baby, Goofy, and Mickey Mouse, but it would not stop image generation of these characters, which is more or less the main point of the lawsuit anyway. And this does have me worried. I mean, is this all that's gonna come of lawsuits like these? Slight guardrails put on these generators to prevent outputs that blatantly rip off existing IP, only if you're large enough to say, hey, please don't do that? It's possible, but fortunately for us, AI companies also suck at their job. As of right now, it's still possible to get past these filters even when they're applied. Wired magazine was able to generate clips of copyrighted characters behaving in adult ways, like, and I quote, Wally brandishing a firearm and Yoda smoking a joint. I love journalism. And I bet you the code for these filters were probably made with AI, and the whole ecosystem is just coming back to bite them. On a side note, I find it so baffling that people are so quick to just blindly accept AI coding, even though it's clearly still in the early stages and probably needs a human touch. I can't believe people are just like, oh yeah, AI's here now, it works 100%, chuck it out. Where did the brain power go? Either way, even if the AI ecosystem doesn't immediately collapse from this failed attempt, Midjourney has over 20 million users, so you know that given enough time, there's more than enough users that they're probably going to get around the safeguards anyway. Still, as long as copyright infringing prompts can make it past, I doubt the filters will do anything to stop Disney and Universal, among others, from trying to take down the AI models that they call the quintessential copyright-free rider at a bottomless pit of plagiarism, which is honestly quite commendable. The AI tool is also able to animate less extreme copyrighted prompts as well, and of course it can be used to generate new derivative content as well, so long as it's not directly working from an IP. It's a really scary thing, especially because you know that bad actors in the animation industry are probably eyeing this sort of technology as a way to one day replace animators and run on a get-rich-quick scheme for free, standing on the backs of animators that are already underpaid as it is. Worse still, it seems that this AI video tool is pretty cheap to use as well. According to Variety.com, Midjourney's AI can generate an image for only 3 to 5 cents, and the generative AI video output is only 8 times more for 5 seconds of video. So at most, that's 40 cents for 5 seconds of video, a price that the company claims is over 25 times cheaper than other AI on the market. I don't care about the AI rivals, I care about the human rivals. But on that front, it's even worse when you compare it to human labor. 5 seconds of animation could potentially cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars. And this costs nothing comparatively, apart from the environment that's probably burning in the backgrounds of these hot super servers. Still, AI tools have a long way to go. They are nowhere near the detail and power of the human animator, and the backlash has been getting pretty intense too. But sometimes it feels like the animation industry echoes the legend of John Henry, man heroically holding his ground and triumphing against machines, but eventually being replaced in the years that follow. Pixar, in their early days, claimed that one of their great triumphs of their movies was the human element. Even though they were making movies with computerized 3D tools, it wasn't as if you pushed a single make movie button and the computer did everything for them. Every shot was deliberated over. Hundreds of thousands of human work hours went into these projects, and that's what makes them great. But now, we see that human element being removed by tools like this. Single image generation is one thing, but AI video is a whole different level of danger for the industry, especially at this seemingly non-consequential price. And it's all tied into their existing subscription model. Hey there, you made it halfway through this video, so come along and subscribe if you're interested in more AI. Ramblings. I won't make AI content. Anyway, can you tell that I might have forgotten to record this halfway mark last time? Oops. Thanks for subscribing if you haven't already. Let's get back to the second half. Worse still, it's not like you can just animate images generated by Midjourney. The service is allowing users to upload their own images and then animate them from there. Also, as I'm now starting to cover like AI journalistic news updates, I hate that parts of this video are going to start sounding like an ad for these AI tools, but let me be clear, it's certainly not. It's just, I suppose because the only concrete information we have for this software is about how efficient it is when Midjourney's talking about themselves. That's just how it comes across, unfortunately. And I absolutely do not endorse it. You can make an argument for AI tools to assist with the human process, but AI generation, no. That's not for me at all. Press a button to delete the background of a photo? Sure. Entirely recreate that photo from scratch? Absolutely not. The problem is, the only information Midjourney has released following the lawsuit is just new product information. And it's all just so icky. But yeah, the image generation at least is not going to be able to beat out human effort, at least for a while, and hopefully not ever. I really do not want my media made without human involvement. If someone's going to get paid for my viewership, I'd rather it be human creatives rather than a faceless, nameless AI conglomerate. But fortunately, as I said, AI is just not at the point where it can replace traditional animation. And it doesn't look like it will be for a long time. But it's terrifying that one day it might be. If AI can make companies think the art form of animation is obsolete, we may well be truly doomed as an industry. Because at that point, the amount of AI slop we'll see will dwarf anything actually decent that could possibly be made using these tools. And that's completely disregarding the awful ethics of it all. I mean, we already see services like Spotify pushing AI bans. My Google Drive wants to summarize my own folders to me. Emails are saying, oh, we'll write this email for you. Thanks, but you don't even know what my name is half the time. And the lines have been more and more blurred as companies cram in this AI service that no one really wants to use. It's a serious crisis going down. Can't wait for it to crash with the rest of the recession. And on the Spotify front, there have been heavy debates on whether the Velvet Sundown, for example, is an entirely AI band or not. They've denied it, but they've been flagged for it. Either way, they're on a major platform and getting promoted. And the same could be true of AI slop content in animation going forwards too. And this just has me disgruntled. And not just because I'm a YouTuber rivaling against AI slop YouTube shorts too. Thankfully, we're still at the stage where we can just sort of side-eye it as the weird, unsuccessful cousin of content. We're really reliant on lawsuits like Disney and Universal to solve this kind of problem and regulate AI, especially when a lot of world governments have no interest in doing anything about it. In the UK, it's at least slightly better. There are murmurings as well with EU and AI usage. But yes, it's terrifying that Midjourney is still staying this course, despite Universal and Disney's team up against them. as if to imply they already feel bigger than those two titans combined. And unfortunately, this might only be the tip of the iceberg of AI as well, especially in the US. In a supremely dystopian move, specifically for the case of the United States, we mentioned a little bit of the big beautiful bill last time, and that's still continuing. You probably know this, but legislation has updated a little bit over time that will now block new AI laws from being made by states for 5 years. The only exceptions are laws that protect kids or copyrights. So hey, at least those are in that sense moving, and that's relevant to this. It was originally supposed to be 10 years with no exceptions, that's what I mentioned in the last video, but that's warped as it's moved on to other stages of government. And that's how the American legislation machine works, I guess. I hate that I know so much about your guys' politics. It's not meant to be relevant to me. But in this so-called big beautiful bill, which has either passed or failed, I'm not sure at the time of making this video since it's in the future, but at least has moved further through other stages, the US government has showed, at the very least, where its priorities lay with AI. Specifically that it's looking to expand it. Even though, according to all the studies I've seen, it's absolutely making us dumber and dumber. But that's a whole other rambling about critical thinking, child education, over-reliance, and just some real next-level Black Mirror stuff. I can only feel blessed that I haven't fallen down that pipeline yet, and presuming the fact that you're watching this video, and presumably watch more of my channel stuff, means you have a little bit more, you know, basic common sense and an ability to analyze and critique. So hey, we'll get through all of this together in some form or another, even if it does end up being an us and them situation. God, I hate that rhetoric. If AI is here to stay, we need to find ways to push back against it. Lawsuits like the one put out by Disney and Universal are a great step in the right direction, but what else is important is ethical consumption. Trying to make sure you're watching as little AI as possible is the best way to really hit them where it hurts. And judging by how much AI slop YouTube shorts there are, and how few views they usually get if you're not Quebblequop getting bad PR, it's nice to see that probably in that sense it's going in the right direction. Like, I don't know anyone that uses the Google Drive summary, and all the different AI names are just synonyms for inconvenience as far as I'm concerned. Or at the very least, if AI is just that invasive, trying to support people who do things the right way. That's probably all we can really do for right now. The only AI content you'll see coming out from me is me talking about AI lawsuits and articles like this, but I don't ever plan to fall down the AI-generated rabbit hole. Hopefully, all this AI development plateaus at some point as supply suddenly realizes how little demand there is for it, in some aspects. But, as with any jumping technology like rocket ships or computers or mobile phones or printing, there's no way to immediately know. We'll just have to wait and see like the tiny guys we are on the side anyway. Yay. But we're now going to move away from the AI lawsuit arc and instead move on to the feature film direction, because it was at this point that there was a full announcement of an AI short film getting a full feature-length release. Lovely. The first AI animated feature film is coming next year, with an article from the LA Times speculating whether this will be AI's Toy Story moment. God, what an insult to everything Toy Story has achieved. But yes, this is apparently real. In a world where you have one group of people achieving this incredible thing, you have another one with a machine that's gonna start creating this incredible thing for us, so they say. And quite appropriately, this is coming out the same year as Toy Story 5, a movie that is set to be about technology replacing toys, which just seems to be becoming more timely by the day. I've always said in regards to the Toy Story 5 movie, it would be nice to see the animators vent some of their frustrations with AI superseding them through the story of that movie. I doubt it'll happen, but, you know, I can put some hopes into a story that, hey, is at least written by a human. But apparently up next, this AI-assisted feature film is called Critters, with a Z, and is based on a 2023 short film of the same name that also used AI tools. And just to emphasize, this is a movie using shiny new technology, using critters with a Z unironically. Like, that's what I would write when I was a teenager. Hence, my username has Zs in it. Daz. Zs are pretty cool when you're in 2012. I can tell you that was one decision within this project that was definitely not made by an AI. I'm sure of that. It has out-of-touch 50-year-old still thinks it's 2000s written all over that one. But anyway, this will likely be an expansion of that short, which apparently satirized nature documentaries where fantastical woodland creatures rebel against their passive on-screen depictions. Now that does feel like an AI description if I've ever read one before. I can't even fully work out what that even means. Like, it feels like a story an AI would come up with, in the sense that it doesn't fully make sense. Not to mention a potentially sinister angle of, these silly nature documentaries you humans make, let's spoof those in nonsensical ways. Let alone trying to depict a fictional version of nature with technology that is ideologically completely removed from it. But funnily enough, it looks like the AI has been mainly used for the animation itself, with the writers from Paddington in Peru coming on board. Great. The guys behind the only mid-Paddington movie are doing this. Now that sure fills me with hope. It makes sense though that there's British talent coming on board for this, as this project is a collaboration between UK company Vertigo Films and Native Foreign, a company that's specializes in AI storytelling. As for the critters themselves, they seem to be largely invented creatures as per the fantastical description. Something I didn't initially realize when I first saw this spider character and nothing else. From the other images that have been released, it kind of looks like an AI was asked to combine where the wild things are with the art style of the original Electric State illustrations. Which, to be fair, probably still adds up to a better project than the Electric State movie. Particularly this Horn guy, who looks like the Gruffalo wearing the skin of a polar bear. But to me, like, look at this. It just currently seems to be stuck with that fundamental uncanniness of AI art. Considering a lot of AI art still struggles to capture that authenticity we see in actual artwork, maybe they're going to be playing into that to create these creepy gothic characters. Maybe that could be the whole idea. Embrace the inherent flaws of this AI technology instead of trying to work against them. But also, no, this is going to be made by AI bros who think this is the next coming of everything. Clearly made too early in this AI race. But hey, it gets to be the first. Doesn't guarantee it's good though. In terms of what software they're using, the animation will be reportedly created with the tools from OpenAI. Yeah, okay, the generic one. We've got a quote here, in fact, that says, "There's been a lot of dabbling, but this shows a commitment from a large AI tool provider that this is possible," says Nick Kleberov, Chief Creative Officer of Native Foreign. I mean, is that really a creative officer though? Or should it really be Chief Prompt Writing Officer, you know? Who in the same interview said, "The last thing I want them to think about is AI." Oh, well, I'm sorry, I have some news for you, buddy. The PR's running off with it. He also goes on to say, "I know that AI will always be a topic, but I think we're going to see a revolution of independent cinema because you're going to be able to tell so many stories." Very interesting use of "your" when talking about software that removes you from the equation, but sure. Look, I think there can be good intentions here, but it does just feel like what starts on the indie level will soon change into big studios doubling down on the technology to pay even less people. Considering this production didn't really need a production team, this thing has been made with less than $30 million, which is probably the thing that will perk the major studio's interest, particularly as this article pairs that information with hundreds of people are typically involved with an animated film, and budgets can be as high as $150 million to $200 million if it's primarily produced in the US. A comparison seemingly made as if it's a bad thing? Basically just outright saying, paying hundreds of people is an issue and we've found the solution. Like, I get it, it's a lot of money, but those figures represent people getting paid to work on movies, whilst that 30 million represents saving money that the studio had anyway, so that executives could just save for themselves. Now those pesky humans who want to get paid are gone. Considering how badly treated animators and production houses have been in the industry these past years, it only seems to be the final step for the big corporations to get rid of their jobs altogether. And this here is the stepping stone for that. If this really is AI's Toy Story moment, then who's to say we'll see with typical human-made animation what we saw with hand-drawn animation back in the 2000s. Except when those animators lose their jobs this time, it's not going to be a new generation of animators finding employment. It's just going to be a couple of warehouses worth of cables and wires. Apparently for this project, there are artists on board creating the initial animation and designs, but but then that's gonna be fed into the AI as a sort of storyboard. They do have some interesting humans involved though. In addition to the writers of the reigning worst Paddington movie, they've also brought on someone who was involved in the original Space Jam. Bringing out the real dream team, aren't we? But to be fair, the animation in Space Jam is probably the best thing about it. I just wonder if that's even worth highlighting when clearly this guy is going to be leaving the bulk of the work to a hard drive and some data. I mean, I'm sure Space Jam makes up a notable chunk of the data being fed into this AI in the first place. So no, I do not see this as a milestone or some kind of achievement like Toy Story was. That was a movie that revolutionized the industry in a way that created a whole new wave of jobs and showcased genuine human expression and art. Sure, I guess there was a generation of animators that also lost their jobs at that time due to that. However, with all the animation and visual effects houses that opened up in the subsequent decades, I'd argue that a lot more work was created by the era of CGI. By computers in general, which ironically is also what led us to this breakthrough with AI. The employment explosion of the computer age is now starting to reverse into an implosion. That said, I don't think that's the intention of the people involved with this project. From this article, they do seem genuinely curious about what they can do with this cool new tool. I'm just saying that's where the outcome of this project and others like it likely will take us. It also makes sense that they brought on actual artists and animators to inform the software, considering all the lawsuits that are currently ongoing for copyright infringement with major studios. Warner Brothers, Disney, and Universal have all filed copyright infringement lawsuits against AI company Midjourney for using their property to inform AI software. So it at least seems like native foreign won't fall into those legal hurdles. Not that that will be a hurdle for long, as AI becomes more advanced by the day, and pretty soon it'll be able to rearrange that information to a degree that you won't be able to prove any of the information it's used anymore. But it is going to be interesting to see how this new AI movie pushes the future of animation and movie making in general. Will animators and creators be going the way of factory workers? How far will the big corporations push their involvement with AI in the coming years, and how are they going to do that whilst maybe hypocritically suing others over their use of it? It very much is the Wild West era of AI right now, with not much solid legislation around what you can and cannot do, which, judging by how similarly has gone down with social media, we might want to do that sooner or later. All I know is that comparing this to Toy Story is nothing short of insulting, even if it has been almost 30 years since the start of the CGI era. And then came the big news. A notable hit where AI animation actually hit the public with the release of Sora 2, a whole new TikTok social media app full of AI slop. Not only was it all the more copyright infringement, but it was also actually accessible. And still at the stage where it's pretty damn terrible. Mostly. Kind of. Alright, let's talk about AI video generation again. It is, admittedly, a really scary thing in the space of animation, and you may have seen a week or two ago, it has made a massive leap forwards. For animators, the continual improvement and evolution of AI tech represents an existential threat to their livelihood. And for fans of animation, AI tech represents the start of a new era of slop content, especially as it is embraced more and more by large companies. 3D animation studios are businesses at their very core, and right now the best way to make a 3D film for the big screen is to employ hundreds or even thousands of animators. But AI models are rapidly improving, and at a certain point, potentially these models may be able to develop convincing enough results at a rate faster and cheaper than the level of human animators. It is a real risk now. And when that happens, will we see it fully replace human work on a large scale? Or are the arts through sheer ethical spirit going to continue anyway? But it does pain me to have to consistently ask the question, is AI the future of all 3D animation? Just a few years ago, AI models were hardly able to generate a coherent image at all. It'd be blurry, abstracted messes. Will Smith eating spaghetti looks horrendous and hilarious, as you'd expect it always would be, and then these models improved. And with it, AI art became rampant. And so did AI video too, somehow. Now, the technology is still far from perfect. But AI video generation keeps getting better and more efficient at what it's doing, and the latest update you can see with your own eyes comes in the release of Sora 2. And I mean, look at the stuff it generated out of SpongeBob.
They clog our streets, steal our work, and pollute our jellyfish field.
Yo, Sponge, this stuff looks extra crystalline.
Sure, it's got all sorts of artifacting across the frame, but it certainly hits the correct stylization of a 3D SpongeBob movie, and when you consider shot by shot that the animation motions are relatively simple, simple arm movements and lip syncing, it's interesting to see how feasibly apparent it is that genuinely this could be a replacement job. And though, yes, AI tools have actually been in use for a good while in the 3D animation space, for example, to make the noses in Spider-Verse and the like, but it's not exactly the AI tools we're talking about, as this was just enhancing human workflows in a way that benefits the normal process. It's automation, not AI generation. There's a difference there. It's this new stuff here, which is entirely animated by AI, that concerns me. At a first glance, it is basically as good in quality as what some junior animators would likely pull off, but just a few years ago, it felt like seeing AI-generated footage of this quality would have been impossible. Yet somehow we're already here. And while there is a clear lack of intentionality compared to footage made by real humans, this is starting to border on getting scarily good. It's not at the point of overtaking all human work yet, but I feel nasty thinking that this is getting pretty damn close to it. AI companies have of course been pushing to make their models better and better, and they're all for replacing human animators. It will be part of their business, it works out. And with the release of OpenAI's Sora 2 model, which that SpongeBob clip and likely all of the footage you're seeing shuffled behind me was generated from, not by me, like other people made it. The technology has taken another step towards being able to convincingly emulate traditional 3D animation. OpenAI describes their new model on their website as more physically accurate, realistic, and more controllable than prior systems. It also features synchronized dialogue and sound effects. And yeah, the synchronization is definitely better than it was before, and this seems like something that could effectively be used to create an animated short in a film that honestly could pass as animated by humans. It's clearly getting more efficient, and I wonder where an ethical line can be drawn, if that's even an option at all. AI has been improving in leaps and bounds, but of course there is all of the ethical debate around this technology that is also worth talking about. Many artists will tell you these AI models are built on art theft first. They're trained on the art of other artists without their permission, with even big companies like Disney and Universal having acknowledged this critique, launching their own lawsuits against AI companies for the infringement of their copyrights, whilst also allowing AI on their other ventures. It's a weird, And yet, it seems like the public opinion of AI technology is changing. At first, it seemed pretty harmless and fun, and then as models started to improve, it started to be viewed less and less positively, thankfully. But even then, AI content was clearly flawed, AI video especially. And oftentimes, this stuff was just straight up ugly. You had the classic six-fingered hands, limbs that morphed into each other, bodies that don't quite hold the right shape, faces that seemed dead and lifeless, and still, it always sort of had that AI look to it. You could just tell. But people were more or less opposed to the use of that AI, if not for ethical reasons, then just because it's ugly as hell half the time. I mean, look at the preview footage for the first fully AI-created film, Critters. This is just uncanny in how ugly it looks, and it is a real feature film coming soon. And I mean, just looking at a lot of the AI stuff honestly just feels like you're looking at something you shouldn't. Like it's somehow violating your mind just to see it. It just has that off-putting and ugly look to it. But as these models improve even further, I'm forced to deal with the following question, that one day, if AI is not at all ugly anymore, are people still outraged? Do people even care? When AI doesn't look like Slop anymore, what will it actually do to animation? And if it's impossible to tell it apart from hand animation, why would a company bother employing animators? And what would you do as a consumer? Is traditional animation just a fleeting, beautiful art that will one day go away? It wouldn't be the first time, as Disney, for example, used to do beautiful 2D hand-drawn animation, and then that got computerized as technologies came along. And now that has practically been abandoned as 3D has taken over the studio. Is AI going to dethrone traditional 3D animation in the same way? Will it replace our current softwares, our blenders and Mayas, as standard means of generating animated content? I hate thinking about this, this line of reasoning just sounds so depressing. It all just reeks of themes of alienation and dehumanization caused by the rapid advancement of technology. Or, like Tron or something. Speaking of Tron, very fittingly, the original movie's reception actually is a very interesting case study, as it was the very first ever film to extensively use CGI with live action footage for a significant part of its runtime. And as a result of the use of computers, it actually received similar criticism to what we're hearing now about AI. It was, for example, disqualified from the Best Visual Effects category at the Academy Awards for essentially cheating with computers. I'd imagine if a film used AI in its effects now, it probably would also be treated the same way. But as of right now, AI tools are still in their infancy. At the same time, the early CGI in Tron was wildly primitive compared to the CGI of today's movies. If you look at the difference in technology from then and now, maybe it can give us a glimpse of where AI is going. Hey there, thank you for making it to the halfway mark of this video. Come subscribe if you haven't already for more animated AI news. We're not going to make AI content, but we are going to make content about AI. In fact, we'll have linked a playlist full of all the stuff we've done in the past. Because it's growing. It keeps coming up in topics. Anyway, let's get back to the second half of the video. I believe Tron and other CGI pioneers like Pixar's Toy Story 1 are fundamentally different from the threatened use of AI film today, though. For starters, these technologies were used to push boundaries. The effects they achieved allowed them to tell stories that had never been done in another medium before, and it required a lot of human labor to do. Tron, in particular, required a lot of hand animation in addition to the new computer technology. But both these pioneers were projects that changed the entire cinematic landscape. And of course they did. They resonated with people, or at least Toy Story certainly did. Tron kind of bombed at the box office, but hey, at least there's that new third one from Disney coming out now. Yeah, that's totally not going bad in any way, is it? Jared Leto. Regardless of how you feel about these movies, though, they were made by people who cared about their projects and had something to say, and then used the technology to enhance that fundamentally human-centric storytelling. But in the case of AI, the problem isn't that the new technology is necessarily being used, it's that it's being touted as a way to remove humanity from the process. And the results, well, I mean, they speak for themselves, at least for now. I can't imagine Critters is going to create an insane following in the same way that Toy Story did, for example. And I think when it comes down to it, is there something fundamentally different about using computers in animation to enhance a human-focused narrative rather than trying to remove humans altogether? But perhaps things will balance out, Maybe there is a way that the new AI technology might be used to enhance the experience of human storytelling rather than to damage it. Actually, wait, duh. That's how the Spider-Verse animators have been using it. Just ways to implement technology to make it so the animators on hand can focus on pushing the boundaries of human artistic expression. If AI tools give artists more powers to create with detail and achieve their visions in a way that doesn't displace those artists from their field, then I think I'm all on board for it. Unfortunately, it just doesn't seem to be the way that AI is being employed right now. I mean, have you seen the entirely AI actress being managed by a talent agency now? If you haven't heard, here's Tilly Norwood, an uncanny AI-generated vessel for Hollywood to do whatever it wants with. Because why not just generate a new celebrity that can do exactly what its talent agency wants? Nothing gets more dystopian than that. It really is just an unsettling use of AI, and something that directly threatens the jobs humans have too. It's the use of AI that I just find really slimy, Trying to replace human jobs, not because there's a good reason, but because they can. to save on money and screw someone else over. It's not like it can act any better than a real human. It can't. It's gonna miss all the behavioral nuances of a real human, or if it can, it's probably because it sucked in all of the data from actors that likely didn't consent to their footage being used to train an AI. But even if that wasn't the case with an AI actress, why? Like, there's no point to it. We have human actors already. So many people want to get into acting desperately, so what reason is there in trying to replace them with AI? I can't imagine money even being a good driver, really. Cause like, genuinely, would you rather go see a movie with a celebrity actor in it, or this unholy abomination? You might like it the first time, like just as a novelty, whoa, this is made by AI. I wouldn't come back after the second or third, if it wasn't my job. God, please don't make me do this for my job. Don't go. Well, she won't be in animation, so it's fine. Still, I imagine, just like with AI animation, AI actors will become more and more convincing over time. Whether they'll be popular, I don't know. Truly, nothing is sacred. And until then, I guess it is up to animators and actors to fight the good fight and to create the best art they can with the tools that they have now. To leave the best legacy they possibly can and to push creativity as far as it can go before AI changes the landscape altogether. Because at the end of the day, it's not just gonna be the big companies using AI tools when they get more advanced. Everyone's gonna be making their own slop because that's just the society we've raised. And when everyone's able to be an AI content creator,
no one will be.
I mean, think about how much AI slop content you see in a normal week, right? That's not even the beginning of how bad it can get as these models get faster and more efficient. And I mean, we're already moving towards that. OpenAI is already planning to launch a social media platform similar to TikTok, aimed entirely at Sora 2 generated video, which honestly could be a good thing. Like, keep it all contained in one place, like Miiverse or something. Maybe it can fall apart and die like Miiverse 2. Whilst at the same time, OpenAI have very much not made a profit from this new era of AI generation, since the moment you make something on their platform, you could just steal it and post it on TikTok instead. A lot of AI companies haven't yet worked out how to monetize these productions yet, and even though you can get credits to make these AI videos, oftentimes the company ends up losing money. Or if a movie company does try to make a shot, every time you put in a prompt, it starts completely from scratch. You can never tweak a little bit of an AI prompt to be mostly the same, but don't have 7 fingers this time, you know? That's an old school problem, but you get the idea. Similarly, I do wonder if there's ever room for an ethical line for AI generated content. In the sense of, when I see these SpongeBob shots where they're relatively simple, I always remember like watching Family Guy and being like, man, I hate the animation where every side character is just a PNG watching. Being able to, I don't know, add like elements of animation on top, but still keeping the human workflow, I feel like is something that could be functional. The main one I really think is just like simple automated limb motions to work on that workflow, or more distinctively, the mouth syncing, you know? That seems like a grindy manual job that takes talent to do, sure, but it's the grindy grunt work. Putting AI towards the grunt work so you can work on the bigger picture, to me, sounds ethical. And if someone says, oh, I animated this whole, you know, episode, but AI did the mouth syncing for me, you don't even need AI to do that. You can, people already automate mouth syncing. I remember a very niche trivia fact of an old school game, can't remember it anymore, Skeleton Detective is the main guy. He has a bunch of different PNGs for his mouth motions, and they automated a whole bunch of presets towards the audio file and were able to quickly redistribute automatic mouth syncing. Lip syncing. I feel like there's a leaning barrier of how to do AI ethically, because chances are AI is an inevitability. And if people do find a way to make use of AI that doesn't deeply anger me and the general public, maybe we can finally come to a palatable cohabitation with this new medium, with the people currently in charge. I don't really know. Whatever the case, it's coming at us fast. And thank God I'm not a bigger YouTuber, otherwise I'd be the one in the middle of these Sora AI generations. But just know, I'm never gonna AI generate myself to do a fake version of me talking to a fake version of a camera. If you're on this YouTube channel with the verified tick, It ain't AI from here. At this point in the year, AI seems to be a pretty notable thing, impacting especially behind the scenes of the animation industry, and now all types of people have seemingly noticed it, some of the good that will go against it, and some of the bad who choose to turn this into outright kids content slop. Thus, we will now introduce you to the franchise that is Maya the Bee. So I guess we're going to be talking about AI regularly now, huh? So the other week, we reported on the first AI feature film coming out next year officially, with articles rather depressingly calling it AI's Toy Story. We've also since then had the release of Sora 2, outright making almost imperceptible animation. And then adding more to that, there was also the controversial experiment to threaten actual flesh and blood actors with an AI-generated actor called Tilly Norbury. We didn't actually make a dedicated video on that one, but I'm sure you've heard a lot about her, and the dystopian direction of everyone can be replaced that she represents. And now, inevitably, more animation projects have also popped up, jumping on the AI bandwagon. And this time with some well-known European IP behind it. What an awful timeline we're in. In 1925, Charlie Chaplin made a movie about the gold rush, and now 100 years later, it is the time of the AI rush, I guess. In fact, they'll soon make AI sequels to his movies soon, I suspect, seeing as this news actually involves a character older than the Titanic, so it's actually predating any Chaplin stuff. Either way, perhaps it's one you haven't heard of before. This is Maya the Bee, a popular cartoon character around Europe, who this year is celebrating her 50th anniversary on screen, as well as 113 years overall. And what better way to mark a 50-year legacy involving generations of animators than replacing them with AI. Specifically, French AI-driven company Unavoidable will be behind this one, who already announced that they will be doing this with other popular character Pocoyo. They announced just a few months ago that the Pocoyo series would be taking on AI-driven technology, after almost 20 years of running fine with humans making it. The current company behind the franchise, Studio 100, will retain their rights for the theatrical releases and theme park endeavors, whilst Unavoidable will see in this AI-driven digital content instead. Along with the most cynical sounding rationale imaginable, essentially saying they want to reach younger generations by reimagining Maya the Bee content so it's palatable for YouTube, short film videos, games, music, and other digital native formats. Basically, they're gonna spam. This character, who dates back to a novel in 1912, is about to be completely digitally exploited in every way you possibly could. I would question whether the original German author would be delighted that his character's legacy will be AI-generated brain rot, but apparently he was later a big fan of Hitler and co, so who cares what he'd think? Maya's history isn't actually all too dissimilar to that of the Smurfs, I guess, in that regard. And they too, I could see just being AI slop. Except Peyo wasn't a Nazi sympathizer, and Maya doesn't have the same level of exposure in the US, so you got that. Which is a shame, because Nickelodeon could have cranked out an Influencer B instead. Although honestly, I'll take a terrible Smurfs movie made by humans any day over a generated Maya the Bee TikTok video. You know? But otherwise, they do have similar timelines, being these iconic characters in European literature who then got a new wave of popularity decades later in the 70s and 80s when adapted into animation. In the case of Maya, this journey actually beginning as an anime series between 1975 and 1980, which is why they're celebrating 50 years of her on screen now, and as we know her creator's political persuasions, perhaps that's why this anniversary is getting a bigger push. Because Maya the Honeybee novel and the animated character may as well be two completely different things. It's not like the Smurfs where there's a direct visual influence, you know? The original Maya novel has the illustration of an anatomically accurate bee on the cover, which is very different to the cartoon character we'd see from the 70s onwards, which was the series she was mainly known for until a new CG franchise of both television and movies in the 2010s. In fact, this was a trilogy of movies that finished up with Maya the Bee, the Golden Orb in 2021. So clearly, this has been a new lease on life in the past 10 years, and after a long gap since that original anime. And for those in pursuit of too much money anyway, the next logical step after anime to CG is CG to AI generated instead. which feels like a continuation of the news we've been following, but also slightly different in the way that it's being done to an established legacy character rather than something original. What a pioneer. Not that anything being done by AI can exactly be called original. And this is just concerning on what young people will be exposed to in the coming years specifically. As Cartoon Brew point out in their article, this is actually underscoring a trend that's been growing in children's media. That being legacy children's IP getting revived with digital-first strategies and AI-assisted production in order to reach global audiences. And you can see how it's come to this, with YouTube and TikTok having the largest share of engagement with young people over both traditional television and even streaming services. They're very much going where most of this iPad generation already are. Hey there, thank you for making it to the halfway mark of this video. Come subscribe for more animated movie news and I guess a dedicated AI series. Talking about it and complaining about it mostly, I swear. Anyway, thank you for joining along and let's get back to the second half. But I think it's especially dystopian that the first part of the industry that will fall to AI is likely going to be content for young kids. Like, for the next generation, most of what they first watch could be predominantly AI generated with little human involvement at all, unless manually consciously warped to not be that way by their parents. It just feels particularly Matrix coded in that regard to me, you know? And the fact that it's starting out by using legacy characters as hollow digital puppets to usher this new age of preschool content feels particularly gross. It was bad enough with Coca, and I have no doubt those guys will soon be adopting AI in some way, but Animage is very much in the business for this specific kind of strategy. Reportedly, they have 242 million monthly unique viewers on YouTube and ranks among the platform's top 5 kids content networks. And as they become more successful, they have been positioning itself as a buyer and modernizer of classic kids brands. Again, they're already doing this with Pocoyo, currently their biggest star, and I didn't even realize how big Pocoyo was before this. He has 4.8 billion lifetime views just on his English-speaking channel. Wow. And now it looks like they want to do the very same for Maya the Bee. Maya the billion view bee in AI form is coming. Considering her origins in animation, it just feels like such a cynical place to go with it. Maximizing exposure to kids seems to be the priority in this campaign over what content is actually exposed to them. Like, what are they actually gonna do with this AI Maya the Bee? Is she gonna be copying TikTok trends, or is she gonna be Pocoyo style shorts? Even taking AI out of it, everything just has this maximized for content approach. Recently, someone even pointed out how the new Disney Plus seasons of Doctor Who are shot with the characters typically in center frame so that they are easier to cut into vertical clips for social media. And I wouldn't be surprised if these upcoming Maya the Bee theatrical releases are made in a similar way so that Animage's AI database can just easily cut them up and repurpose them for the magic word content. It's also interesting that both this and the AI movie they've announced with Critters are Europe-backed projects too, with Critters being a co-production with London-based Vertigo Films, whilst Animage is a French company and Studio 100 being Belgian. Like, AI is swarming Europe specifically, and especially quick. And yes, London is still part of Europe, for those who think that Brexit was the UK leaving the continent. Welcome to geography. But it just shows that legacy characters all over the world aren't safe from this AI contentification. Warner Brothers are clearly not bothered about putting effort into the Looney Tunes, and maybe they can just be sent on a cost-saving AI journey. Who's to stop them, really, once... Oh no, what? You were charging! I mean, who's to stop them once they stop other AI firms stealing their intellectual property anyway? Nickelodeon need a new way to exploit SpongeBob. Maybe this is the next step to further insult his deceased creator. I mean, the AI companies like Sora 2 already doing that, so just make a deal and run with it. Camp Coral already looks like it was written by AI. My point is, even though you probably haven't heard of Maya the Bee, and I didn't other than knowing that it could have been a terrible prompt somewhere along the line with one of their movies, her popularity in certain territories do not protect her from this fate, so really, are any IP characters safe? In this time where new properties and characters may arise from generative AI, we're at least currently able to identify older properties that haven't been touched by it. But with this news considered, when you start blurring the line with these legacy characters, we may well see the day where we can't tell what was an actual classic Mickey Mouse cartoon and what's an AI Mickey Mouse cartoon made to look like the others. That's the line that this news seems to begin to cross. Studio 100 is a Belgian company as well, so will other Belgian properties like Smurfs and Tintin soon be thinking, we could do that too? Is there gonna be any kind of AI regulations in that regards, like a forcible, undeletable watermark? I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, really. The door has certainly been open for all sorts of things on the animation front. I always champion original projects over franchising the same characters over and over again, but I'd much rather see those same characters brought to life and continue under the creative force of human beings over an algorithm that's been fed old stuff to regurgitate. Anyway, that's my little tale on how the beginning of welding AI to iconic characters has been sounded by a 113-year-old bee created by a Nazi. Welcome to the world, I guess. And now that we're done with some of the smaller sides of the animation life, adapting AI, time for the bigwigs to finally have noticed and brought out their announcements too. At this point, it was only murmurs and announcements, but you can probably guess where it actually ends up going, as we'll cover later in this video. Well, great. We are now running even deeper into the AI rabbit hole of terrible news with a new weekly-ish update, it seems. There may be random indie developers making entire AI movies, Sora 2 making a loaded gun of easy animation work, or just the general theme of jobs being taken away. And just last week we got a new horrible factoid, as it looks like the one Jeffrey Katzenberg has given in his 2 cents, saying that AI is the future of animation. You know, Jeffrey Katzenberg, the founder of DreamWorks. Now, it's not as simple as DreamWorks are going now to make AI movies, but there certainly is more of an implication here that we're gonna dissect for what this means for the industry as a whole, and who's actually gonna be the executive to fire that loaded gun. So, if you've seen our recent coverage of the looming threat that is AI in the animation industry, you'll know that AI models have been getting better and better at a massively alarming rate. And while human work is still the norm now, there's been this growing cloud of AI slop that has been looming over the entire animation industry, and nobody is honestly safe. From small-scale, low-budget stuff to big money productions, it looks like we're gonna soon be entering a world with an animation industry that is entirely dominated by AI. Possibly. It's already starting to invest the production of low-budget kids animations, such as us previously talking about how Maya the Bee is a legacy IP that's just being turned into AI slop now. And now, according to Katzenberg, it's gonna be taking over the big leagues too. You know, the ones you'd kind of think would be slightly attuned to maybe not do that. Some of them doing lawsuits against AI themselves. Or so you'd at least hope. When he was asked during an interview about AI's impact on the creative class, I guess that's one way to phrase it, basically meaning artists, writers, filmmakers, and creators in general, he claimed it will have a profound effect on animation, and specifically that it will be used to reduce the cost of animated films by 90%. You know, by trimming out a lot of the human jobs. Katzenberg seems particularly optimistic towards AI models. He sees them as just a new creative tool, kind of like a brand new paintbrush, or like the printing press, or maybe more appropriately, like what digital technology was to the film industry. That's the simile we're going with here. But here's the thing though, all of these new tools created new jobs in the film industry. Visual effects jobs alone have skyrocketed in the 2000s. So I assume Katzenberg sees this as like a fancy new kind of animation software. The thing is though, no animation software promises to do your job for you. Then it gets you fired, sucks up to your boss, and steals your position in the company. It's less like a software, more like a co-worker. A toxic one at that. But old Katz here claims that AI is just the next step of technological innovation in storytelling, and that there's just so much opportunity around it to generate derivative works of others.
I think if you look at how media has been impacted in the last 10 years, what will happen in the next 10 years will be 10x as great.
Now, like, I get it. He was there for the birth of the modern 3D animation landscape. Before his time, that alone was unheard of. And I guess he views AI as the next step in just that evolution. He sees media as ever-changing, rapid switching formats, since he was part of the major changeover from traditional 2D to modern 3D animation. But there was a big difference between then and now, because new formats encouraged cutting-edge labor from cutting-edge humans. And AI, I mean, once the model gets to their end goal, the idea really is that movies just make themselves, right? The general progression is going to be that the AI slop will look less sloppy, and chances are it doesn't require a team of humans doing AI jobs to operate this AI machine. The AI is replacing 100% of it. That's the finale. No need for the labor of human creativity, no need for passion, and certainly nothing original, because the very nature of learned AI models is they are derivative of others' works. Just content. It's really depressing, especially to hear from an executive like this. Katzenberg seems to see AI as a way to make animation more accessible, as a tool for artists and storytellers who otherwise wouldn't have a way to tell their stories, which is a nice sentiment. Sure, I get it. But if companies are suddenly able to create without their workers, that means a whole industry is out of a job, trying to make their own startups and competing with each other. All the while, those who own pre-existing IP prosper on top. And that's kind of what the game would be, I would assume, with an AI animation industry. It's not about the stories you tell, it's about what characters you own to be able to tell them with. Although I guess technically that's not too far off from the sequel era slop we're in at the moment. But there are jobs. AI in the context of the animation industry is more likely to lead to consolidation of power and wealth rather than democratization that everyone seems to be trying to pitch it as. That is the trend with this sort of thing. I mean, hey, just look at the games industry for comparison. It is way easier to make a video game now than it ever has been before. And yet, we see the exact same thing happening over there. Katzenberg, though, despite his prediction, seems nostalgic for the good old days.
Oh, the good old days when, you know, I made an animated movie. It took 500 artists 5 years to make a world-class animated movie.
And yet, even still,
I think it won't take 10% of that.
He's just throwing numbers out, but that is a grim prediction if true. And listen to his tone. He doesn't sound particularly happy about it. It feels more like this is less of a, this is a new technology and I'd love to see it used to cut costs, and more, this is how things are going to be. And while he still believes human creativity will be important to the process, even if a large part of it is done by AI, it's important to note that those are still human jobs. And AI experts have made it clear that they expect, and even sometimes want, AI to take all of them. And I'm not sure if the specific brand of human creativity he is calling for is really a win.
Prompting is in fact going to be a creative commodity.
Oh, I hate that. I refuse to accept that prompt artist will be a real job title of all the imaginary AI jobs there could be. Is it really the future for every animator who wants to stay relevant in this industry? Like, that's so dreadful to think about. Prompts. Now, that may just be what Jeffrey said, but how realistic is Katzenberg's prediction anyway? Assuming AI is only able to make the animation, but that storytelling must be delivered by the human, would that kind of thing actually catch on in the animation industry? Is it already happening? And will DreamWorks be using AI effective immediately? Well, a few things. Perhaps one of the biggest reliefs to hear in 2025 is the fact that Jeffrey Katzenberg may be the founder of DreamWorks, but he doesn't actually work at DreamWorks anymore. He was there for their most popular work, Shrek, Madagascar, Kung Fu Panda 4, and How to Train Your Dragon, and then he parted ways 9 years ago in 2016. A few years after which he launched the wonderfully doomed streaming platform Quibi. Remember that? If you don't remember it, you must be part of the reason why it lost over $1 billion. But while we can chuckle at this obvious technological failure now, it is also very relevant to point out with this topic, is that he was at the top of the industry, and he still has industry connections for sure. If he's already saying this stuff, it's bad for all of us and reflects how the entire industry is reacting. Because sure, all of these AI movie thoughts could have just been entirely from his own head. But this is also the kind of take that could have easily formed after talking with another high-profile animation industry person. Maybe the head of a studio, like he otherwise would have been, about how AI tools are going to be implemented at the workplace. Jeffrey's takes are pretty bold, but they could be also really grounded in reality if he was hearing about this stuff through the grapevine of animation studios he has connections to. And if he, the old DreamWorks exec, is thinking that way, then maybe every studio's exec is thinking this way. Which, I don't need to explain to you, is really, really bad. So you know what? Let's play a game of it. Assuming this take is at least partially reflected by someone else high up in the animation food chain and isn't just out of thin air, who would it be? Hey there, thank you for making it to the halfway mark of this video. Come subscribe if you haven't already for more AI animated news. I'm hoping it will slow down after this, but can't make any guarantees. Regardless, we'll keep up with it. So let's get back to the second half of Jeffrey Katzenberg. Did I keep calling him Burger? I might be calling him Burger in this video. Sorry about that. Out of every animation studio head, who would be the one, the suspect in the lineup, who also would want AI to take human jobs in their mainline studio that they are actively currently running? Let's start with the obvious suspect, DreamWorks. I would actually say, ironically enough, this is pretty unlikely. They put a warning that their movie is not to be used to train generative AI under the threat of legal action at the end of The Bad Guys 2, which is a nice gesture, but it's not like it's going to be stopping anyone. And while that doesn't rule out DreamWorks potentially adapting AI tools in the future, I do think it's representative of a little bit of how they're reacting to AI upon first impression. Sony Pictures, another contender for the suspect lineup, we also already know that they use AI to some extent in their work in a more hybrid fashion that hasn't replaced any humans yet. Instead, with examples like the Spider-Verse franchise, they use AI tools in order to streamline parts of the process. It doesn't replace animators, and it's not outright generative, it is an AI tool, which again, I think is acceptable. It's only helping to boost a real human do their human work. Similarly, Sony seems to be an absolute powerhouse on the animation field right now. I would be very shocked for them to take the full dive into generative and lose all of their goodwill. Although they don't have perfect goodwill, they do crunch their animators. So maybe in that sense they would consider it to make things less crunchy and cost-cutting. Plausible, I would see it more likely back in the emoji days. I like to think they wouldn't, but I don't think they are our most obvious contender. So moving on from there, the suspect I think we can most certainly scratch off the list, ironically, is probably from an unusual source. Because actually, our good guy in this scenario is the typical, usual, financing cost-cutter himself bad guy, Chris Meledandri, representing Illumination. Now, this studio has already made an outright anti-AI commercial in their slot for the Super Bowl recently. You know the one. It was the one with the minions making fun of it.
With artificial intelligence, the future is in good hands.
I don't know how it came to this, but I'm starting to actually love everything coming out of Illumination in a minute. But these guys are by far the most ethical players in the AI animation field right now. And their commitment to their partnership with Nintendo, who have also been pretty anti-AI as well, means that they probably are not shifting that stance on animation anytime soon. Especially with the new Mario Galaxy movie coming up. The question is whether in 10, 20 years, when every other studio is cutting costs and it's more normalized, would they do it then? Financially, it makes sense. Or maybe they'll be the kings of, we have maximum money, we'll do it only human. Against the grain. So let's move over to Disney instead. Disney had filed a lawsuit against generative AI company Midjourney jointly with Universal. But at the same time, they have also made it really clear that they were only really filing to protect their IP. If it's Disney themselves using AI, then Disney is really happy about it. In fact, Disney would likely want to cut down on the amount of money they spend on movies, especially after the whole Tron fiasco, and the Snow White fiasco, and the Wish fiasco, and the Strange World fiasco. You know, Disney isn't exactly in a great place right now, and it would make sense if they see AI as their way out of that. Similarly, they have used generative AI in some of their, at least promotional tweets in the past, so it seems to be more of a you can't do it to us, but we could do it to ourselves. So I'm gonna make the prediction, whether it's in 1 year time, 5 years time, or in 3 days after now. If I was to pick anyone in the executive lineup who would pick to make AI generative movies, whether it's a hybrid or whatever, we'll get there, I would harbor to guess Disney would be the type, because who is the most soulless really? When it comes to making the maximum profit, financially, I feel like Disney would be the type to bite that bullet. The question would be how the reaction would be to that fact. Because surely, if they actually made the jump and had an AI movie, are people really going to go and show up for that? Honestly, who knows? I suspect they'll probably trial it anyway, and then they'll cast Jared Leto in it for good measure. I mean, if anything, the fact that Disney still are running with Jared Leto is further proof that they don't care about much of the backlash. If he could be casted in Haunted Mansion, and then Tron, and rumored to be in Star Wars as well, and they have no issues with bringing his baggage everywhere with a second thought, then I have serious doubts that they wouldn't do the exact same thing for AI corner cutting. And in fact, it has already started, as it has been declared publicly that Disney and Pixar have reportedly been experimenting with AI technology. But don't worry, it's not fully the end of the world. What we actually have here is a resource that is their own machine learning website that documents a lot of their cutting edge research. Now, a lot of this stuff that you see here is not exactly generative AI and goes way beyond the last 1 or 2 years. It's very much seeing all sorts of technological upgrades they've pushed the barrier with, whilst you can see some elements of generative stuff mixed in there, but I don't see it as quite the exact same thing. For example, Elemental actually specifically used neural network technology to build the fire in their animation toolkit. It was generative fire, but more like a physics engine kind of thing. That's clearly different, right? That's certainly a question for how things go, because whilst most of these executives are either a yay or a nay, the fact of the matter is as well, eventually each of them themselves will be replaced. Probably by a human executive, funny how that works out, and then it's a question of whether that executive will always pick the most obvious anti-AI stance. I think we can make a comfortable prediction of who's most likely to do it in the next 2 years. In 5 years, I think it might look a little bit more compromised, and by 25, I don't even want to think about it right now. And at the end of the day, Katzenberg has very much been on the wrong side of industry trends before, you know, Quibi, but he's also been part of the largest revolution in animation history before. And then we loop back round to Christmas. Ironic, this came out really early in the year, and I was hoping for this to be the ender of this compilation initially, but with it releasing so early in Christmas, and others also doing a Christmas advert as well later, spoilers, turns out this is only now a step along the way of this compilation. 2025 had way more AI stuff than I intended. God, I hate that. I'm sorry. Let's talk about the time a second AI Coca-Cola advert hit the commercial field. It's that time of year again. I would say welcome back to the unfortunate weekly series now of AI news, but this one's outright stretching for a year now, as it is time for our annual tradition, I guess, of AI-generated Coca-Cola ads. God, I hate that. It turns out last year wasn't just a gimmick. Coke are now leading the way for generative AI's infiltration of the advertising sector now. And this time they're doing it with animals and a big ol' Santa as well. Come on, Pepsi, this is your chance. You need to counter-program this with a stop-motion ad that shows all the shots of the humans moving the characters. Sounds like an easy win to me on the marketing. That would really get people talking. But what has certainly got people talking about this new commercial is that it released alongside a behind-the-scenes featurette trying to convince you that this isn't evil. Last year, we got their first attempt at doing this exact thing, featuring a series of people dead behind the eyes and barely moving beyond any basic motion. This was the world's first Gen AI created film to be shown on broadcast media. Back then, the advert received significant backlash for not only being terrifying visually, but also in the whole concept of human replacement. And we actually made a video on it back a year ago. So if you want to see our very earliest thoughts on generated AI, it's over there. But the whole thing just seemed so cold, and people could really feel it. it's the wrong side of the winter feeling. Certainly an interesting avenue to go down when you are going for a warm-hearted Christmas advert. It was, on multiple fronts, a disaster, but it was also a sign of what's to come. As in a world of no publicity is bad, it did see Coca-Cola effectively disrupt the marketing sector, which is why they've done it again. And my god, how a year in the AI world makes a difference. Last year, whilst real looking, you could tell something was wrong. This year, the fact that it's way more advanced makes it even creepier. It's genuinely like a litmus test of how far AI animation has come. Yet the goofs are still present, and I think there's a reason they generally avoided humans this time around. I hate that it's actually reflecting the early days of Pixar like that. And this Coca-Cola ad comes to use from Real Magic AI. Two words that are ironically not present within this commercial whatsoever. The ad opens with the familiar foam-looking AI hand opening a Coke bottle, complete with strange physics when it comes to the cloud coming out of the bottle. They're just kind of swirling weirdly. Over to the model truck where the AI becomes even more apparent. Everything smooth-edged with only so much actually in focus. We then go to a shot of the full-size truck, which looked a lot better than the opening shots at least. But I mean, there's so many damn ads with this truck at this point, it was probably the easiest thing to get right, if anything. The easiest to scrape for references. It's just a cuboid. It's almost like you didn't need to AI recreate it, but well, whatever. We then have a blend of different AI stylistic takes on animals, because there's no real artistic consistency when there's no actual artist behind what you're doing. Starting with these realistic looking polar bears. Like the humans in last year's ad, their motion is notably limited, as that's still all they can really handle. It might be Real Magic AI, but somehow it's kind of behind Sora 2 AI. That being said, I do think the shift away from humans is deliberate in an attempt to be like, hey, we're not replacing human actors, and maybe to ward off a little bit of the uncanniness and make the AI look more deceivable to their hopefully dumb audience. Polar bears slightly raise their heads, job done. The penguins are definitely the most convincing, even showing some more extreme motion in jumping, although this truck got from the polar bears in the Arctic to the penguins in the Antarctic pretty quickly. But maybe that's a problem with all Coke adverts, I don't know. We'll also be shuffling footage of real human adverts so you can see some actual artistic ability, see how far we've come and fallen from grace. Do I need to get to the point where I'm marking which is human and which is AI? I hope not. I hope you can just tell. Anyway, back to the AI penguins. The shot's only a few seconds long, further feeding into the AI-ness of it all. And then there's the hedgehogs, who evidently decided to skip hibernation for this winter. Man, nothing makes sense in this. Where for some reason, they suddenly switch from realistic animals to these more cutesy-looking character designs. Why do we allow AI slop to be so sloppy? Is there not even a director who's like, you know, trying to find some consistent through line? These especially feel a lot more like what would come up if anyone asked for an AI-generated hedgehog. It's just one of the most generic AI shots here, if you ask me. And then there's this. In the behind-the-scenes featurette that they put out, they called this style hyperrealism, referring to what they intended for every animal in this ad. And I'm not so sure they succeeded, because as we go through the other animals in this ad, they also seem to be just constantly changing styles from where I'm standing. And following the vibes of the other animals, we then naturally go to a panda! I thought it may have been a raccoon at first. But no, a panda shows up now. Oh, okay. Watching the ad back, they seem to be going for an international vibe through animals, with the same art style as the hedgehogs, so we've now just outright switched the whole look of the entire ad. Alright. It smiles at the truck because commerce. Animals are famous for doing that. We then have a more generic shot of trees lighting up in gold spirals. There's no character on screen for this one, so it unfortunately just looks like a normal CGI sequence you'd see in any Christmas ad. But not to worry, we then cut to a sloth. Meet AI sloth, everybody. Kinda half and half on the realism scale. Because it's AI, there's something that looks slightly painted about the overall look, the more realistic they try to make it. Over to the wider shots of birds flying over the truck so you can get away with less detail. And my goodness, we get 2 shots of the seals, and they're longer than a few seconds. Wow! The budget's going crazy in this AI ad. And it's back to the cutesy look for those guys. Oh, lucky us. Those shots look pretty good, I hate to say it. Then more shots of the trucks, this time boasting their rolling wheels after getting hounded last year for the fact that they looked like they were sliding before. Again, how did they let such low-quality slop through on broadcast media? But there's still that inherent smoothness to the trucks that makes them look weird in this. Anyway, rabbits. Hello there, thank you for making it to the halfway mark of this video. Come subscribe if you haven't already for more AI animation news. Seems like this is becoming a weekly Monday thing. So let's get back to the second half of AI Coke Christmas. Anyway, rabbits. Just a whole legion of them looking at a big billboard featuring the iconic Coca-Cola Santa winking at them. They like that, so they run towards it. I guess this is a metaphor for Coke's audience being gullible rabbits. And then perhaps the most AI looking of the bunch, more so than the hedgehogs, is the puppies in the window. The blurred fur, the even blurrier background, it's exactly the kind of slush we're looking for. And for the first time in a while, they've gone back to the realistic look again. They really refused to pick a lane, didn't they, on the style for these animals? Because we then have these squirrels and they don't have that real animal look at all. Only for them to appear on a roof in the next shot where they do look realistic. I can't keep up with these creative choices, presumably because a human didn't make them. It's also the squirrels that take us out as we zoom from one in the Christmas tree to the big old Coca-Cola logo, which has the audacity to have the AI company's name, Real Magic, at the bottom. You can't say it looks entirely good, but also, it's not bad this year, which I hate. As AI becomes less of its hilarious, uncanny self, it just becomes harder and harder to actively laugh at. And it's interesting to see what parts have advanced and what still looks off-color a year later. Weirdly, I think the opening shots of the ads are the worst bit. Surely that's terrible marketing. That's the bit that looked like the result of anyone typing in Mega Cola Christmas ad, you know? Beyond that, not bad visually, but also not good, because again, AI clearly hasn't worked out the concept of art styles yet and keeping those consistent, even with a custom-made Real Magic AI. It is getting there though, and that's worrying. It very much seems like Coca-Cola are serious about being the front runners in AI marketing, to the extent they actually got a designated head of generative AI at the corporation, that being Pratik Thakkar. Speaking about the AI commercial, he said, "Last year we set a global milestone with the world's first entirely Gen AI created film on broadcast media. A bold leap that broke new ground by breaking a record number of artists' existential worth, presumably." He went on to say, "This year's campaign is another proof point in our journey of emerging technology to rethink how we create and scale content." Ah yes, everyone's favorite word, especially in marketing and by the biggest companies in the world. Content. I mean, sure, content is what I'm doing here. At least mine's made by humans. And I'm very, very small scale compared to Coke. But in the content world now, you have to disrupt. And disrupt is what they've done. But has it been worth it? By using their iconic Christmas ad as the disruptor, they very much removed the heart from something a lot of people once had a lot of nostalgia for. Like, in my opinion, this really rubs off how this is a massive, evil corporation. Nonetheless, you can't ignore that this ad with the iconic truck was once a beloved staple of Christmas TV. The original jingle, also present in this ad, has been there since 1955. Yet now it feels cheapened by this fake-smelling smog of AI laced throughout the whole thing. It just seems like the perfect example of something classic being taken and rearranged into an AI database, as is the Wizard of Oz at the Sphere. The once authentic sense of festive warmth people associated with these ads are now squandered with an underlying sense of insincerity, which we can definitely spot in the UK, as many of our Christmas commercials focus in on telling wholesome stories, even teaming with charities on occasion. In the UK advertising market anyway, cutting corners in your advertising will stand out. Now this also came with a bizarre behind the scenes featurette on the Coca-Cola YouTube channel, where they run through what steps they made since the previous one. Supposedly you can see the editing process of refining the wobbliness of AI generation, with actual artists supposedly adding the finishing touches, which in the best case scenario means humans adjust the end bit now, but the worst case scenario is it's faked. There's Photoshop shots where there's a single layer in the UI, and a lot of the finishing touches, when you have the experience of animation and editing, just don't make any damn sense. Like, this is a fake behind the scenes trying to deceptively imply a hint of human creation. The very fact that it exists means that they know there's gonna be backlash and they're trying to respond, but they're not responding genuinely. They're just trying to say, you're wrong, let's lie even more. As if they're trying to break down what is even reality now. Yeah, I guess that's the real magic. I think the line in the featurette I find the most chilling was definitely, post-production is the new pre-production, which, whilst they didn't mean this, just makes it sound like the human contribution is solely the finishing touches at the end of the process. Of course, the thing they are constantly trying to reinforce in this featurette is the fact that artists were involved with working with the AI, to at least attempt to convince everyone that they won't be replaced, their spin being that AI is enabling creators, which is apparently what happens when you have a tool that actively does most of the creativity for you. But that's what they roll with. The final 30 seconds is a whole pro-AI piece about combining human creativity with AI being a good thing. I'm not convinced by that. Particularly not by a featurette that Coca-Cola put out themselves. They may have taken the creepy AI humans out for now, but for me, that doesn't make the advances of technology in a year any less terrifying. One of the most successful, most profitable companies on the globe, and they resort to the lowest budget slop. It's emblematic of how they feel as a company, and you can bet all sorts more will be doing the same. Come on, Pepsi. I'm rooting on you to do something good and human, maybe. Maybe. And right after, we've come to learn that Coca-Cola is not in fact going to really respond, react, or adapt to the backlash of AI and the public opinion on it being absolutely in the bin, another bigwig showed up. It's the real bombshell of the year. Let's talk about Disney actively using AI. A decision that at the time of recording this has not actually been felt in effect. It comes in early 2026, and we don't know the response and how well it will go. Or not go. But isn't that exciting? It might not go great. Somehow, Disney Plus is incorporating generative AI now. There is so much AI animation news coming out, I can't even make this like a once-a-week series. I'm trying to space these out and just release them on Mondays, but this just got reported this morning, and I can't not talk about it immediately. I'm sorry if I'm the one breaking the news to you, but Disney have announced that AI-generated content is officially coming to Disney Plus. I guess they got tired of AI rip-off versions of their IP, so they're just jumping on doing it themselves. Duh! Don't go down the Zootropolis rabbit hole, by the way. I doubt I'm gonna make a dedicated video on it, but there's something going on. Both AI generation and gaming features will be added to the service in the next coming year, according to both current and former CEO Bob Iger. And this announcement is confusing. Not on the artistic morality front. It is unambiguously awful when it comes to that, but I just left reading this thinking, what are they actually doing? Because apparently, the way it works is soon, users will be able to create AI content with iconic characters on Disney Plus? That just leaves me thinking, why? And then why on there? Because, color me stupid, I thought Disney Plus was just a library of movies and shows, not a AI server message board. But yes, apparently that's just what they're doing now, alongside adding game-like features to the platform. Really, is that what we're doing here? Iger referenced how this gaming element comes off of the back of last year, where Disney purchased Epic Games, the guys behind Fortnite, for $1.5 billion, so maybe they've had some help with that. It also just makes me think that they've just made this decision based on the fact that kids like Fortnite, so all they need to really do is add Fortnite-like stuff to Disney Plus. Is that the logic? It does just seem to smell of, we're gonna throw everything on Disney Plus now, which feels super convoluted to me. I find Netflix's bottomless pit of content overwhelming enough, particularly considering most of its crap. You want to now add gaming and AI-based services to my streaming apps? Netflix does actually have a history of gaming content over there, but this AI thing is a whole new direction and choice. Sure, as just a blanket rule, I resent any AI-based projects, but just on a practical level, this just seems to massively overcomplicate something that doesn't need to be. If I want a video game, I will play a video game, generally. I don't want to use my TV remote. I don't need an option for where I need to complete side quests in order to watch Toy Story 3. In terms of what the AI functions will actually be, CEO Bob Iger said the following. AI is going to give us the ability to provide users of Disney Plus with a much more engaged experience, including the ability for them to create user-generated content and to consume user-generated content, mostly short form. Oh, okay, so this isn't even just pictures, this is outright videos? Anyway, notice the spin they added on there, calling it user-generated content to elicit some sense of humanity. I think user-prompted AI-generated will probably be the more apt description there. It's also interesting that there will supposedly be a function to both create and consume this slop. Great, I don't have to watch Lion King anymore. I can just watch someone else's AI-generated avatar of Timon doing the cha-cha slide instead. Considering the sharing element as well, it smells like an attempt to have some sort of element of social media to the platform as well, particularly going for that TikTok demographic. If there was anything I liked about streaming platforms at all, it was the distinct disconnect from social media whilst you're using them. I could just watch something without a public forum attached to it. Lovely, that's rare. Sure, this doesn't necessarily mean that there will be a comment section and all the rest of it, but it does feel like some attempt to have TikTok appeal, and I hate everything about this, man. Apparently, the big AI innovation is that you'll be able to access a library of Disney-owned characters that you'll presumably be able to prompt into doing stuff. Whether Elsa, Darth Vader, or the Hulk, the floor is yours, because they're already a monopoly that owns every character. Shove them all into AI, why not? It's just a giant green light for it all. Though I am guessing these prompts will be safeguarded within an inch of its life. As I said, there is a whole underworld of Zootropolis fanfic that shouldn't have access to this level of power. The thing is, AI clearly has a degree of unpredictability, so no restrictions you put on it are going to be airtight. There is obviously probably going to be massive, horrendous images to begin. Criminal or certainly controversial ones at the gate on day one, you can expect. And basically, I think this will all just horribly backfire on them. And I'm sure that any human who's been involved in bringing those characters to life will absolutely be horrified by the concept of turning them into AI-generated puppets, knowingly. You have this whole library of iconic characters, and this is what you're gonna do with them? This is the only new 2D content we're gonna get out of Disney. Is this just for users making their own content with AI? Or are we gonna have these avatars wandering around the server so you're selecting the right program as well? Are they gonna put it in the thumbnails? Or is it specifically to be a lightning rod of all copyrighted AI so they can shove it into the corner, say there it is officially, fuck off? Cause that idea, there's a semblance of acceptability there. If you create a lightning rod to focus it all somewhere, you can then ban it in every other location from your IP. Still hate that it's going on the big central Disney Plus to do it, but hey, you know, that's a spin I could get behind, maybe? But I could also see it being the case where we're gonna now see Winnie the Pooh jumping on the Alien Earth button when you wanna watch that, you know? And I'm not sure whether these presumably expensive innovations are really gonna boost their subscriber base either. From a business perspective, I don't get it yet. Because you could always ban it everywhere. You don't have to create a lightning rod to ban everybody else. People have Disney Plus as essentially access to its huge library, particularly when it comes to families. And sure, the AI and gaming functionalities will be appealing to younger viewers, but at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure it's not what will move the needle on parents needing the service. Rather, I think what's happening here is to add more bang for your buck as Disney looks to increase the price of the service in coming years. That's my pitch. Hey there, thank you for making it to the halfway mark of this video. Come subscribe if you haven't already for more AI animation news. This is meant to be every Monday, but today's a surprise one because this is a high priority, high notoriety prompt. I shouldn't say prompt. They've ruined the word prompting now. Anyway, let's get back to the second half of it. Every streamer right now knows that they are on borrowed time in terms of how long people will be willing to pay for all of these different services. As prices go up faster than people's wages, cuts are gonna have to be made in what they're paying for. Which is why, whilst most people won't have Disney Plus for these features, their presence alone adds that illusion of extra value. we're creating our own Disney bubble. Basically, I think maybe Disney are indulging in AI slop as an extra feature to hold onto your subscription. But I wouldn't be surprised if it rapidly goes in the other direction. After all, every few months, there's a new wave of people leaving Twitter because of the AI functionalities they're shoving everywhere. And generally, there is a growing distaste for AI. Damn, it hasn't even been like a week since we last started theorizing which studio is going to use AI first, and here we are. Hey, we did say it was probably going to be this company. As we've also covered in the past, this is coming off of Disney being amongst the companies looking to protect their IP from other AI companies by the likes of Midjourney, alleging that they trained AI models on copyright-protected properties without permission. Something that ironically has led them to exploring AI companies themselves, as well as making sure users can't do anything weird with it. Iger said how Disney have been having productive conversations with AI companies to balance user freedom with the need to protect the IP. In other words, they're making sure this is completely pervert-proof. And I guess another takeaway there is that Midjourney missed out on a potential contract to work with Disney by ripping them off. A silver lining? One of the worst AI companies doesn't get the best ending? You can certainly see how other companies threatening their IP may have actually escalated Disney's exploration of the technology themselves. It's that sense of, if we don't dabble in it, someone else will do it with our characters instead. You can see the motivations there, but it doesn't stop this feeling creatively bankrupt. According to Iger, AI will give the opportunity to use Disney Plus as a portal to all things Disney, citing commerce, theme parks, hotels, and cruise ships as all slowly being better integrated with the streamer. You're telling me people are one day gonna have to go buy their park tickets and fast passes through goddamn Disney Plus? Oh god, they're letting these technicians go too far. So when I say like it feels like they're stuffing everything onto Disney Plus, they actually are stuffing everything onto Disney Plus. No wonder they're putting AI on there as well. No human user's gonna be able to navigate this server once everything is apparently on it. Man's just trying to watch Pirates of the Caribbean only to find himself booking to go on Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah, that's at least a funny scenario to end up on. Great advert for Specsavers. Look, there's clearly an aim to streamline all of Disney's services into one central hub. But I can't help but feel that that kind of compartmentalization is missing from this grand plan. Even if these functions are all clearly separated, I'm still not sure I want all this stuff on one platform. It doesn't take a genius to find the Disneyland website if they want it, but I guess the point is that it's far more tempting if the booking portal is right there in front of you. On all fronts, this is a pretty disgusting Main Street parade of capitalism. But of course, it's the AI that I'm most concerned about. It's so ironic to be on the same platform full of some of the most creative, imaginative human artists in the world. They're specifying mainly short-form content, which feels like it doesn't really rule out that longer stuff could be on the way. It doesn't matter if the Bluey creator wants to wrap up the series. In a few years, parents will be able to prompt new episodes into existence. Simpsons will never die, because when they do, just generate more yourself. It's just some of the most grotesque business decisions, especially if you have to pay to create the AI-generated stuff. If there are Disney AI credits, that would possibly be profitable because it's got the Disney coin attached to it, but it becomes so soulless along the way. I really hope my lightning rod theory is right. I can't make any guarantees. Disney wants to be a frontrunner in bringing a server for AI slop onto streaming. I guess fully completing the transition from the day we started calling movies and TV shows content. Coming soon to Disney Plus, some random dude's prompted version of Incredibles 3 that he's decided to share. We won't even need the Disney library anymore. It'll be so stuffed with new content that anyone can now make. As the company that made the animation industry, it just feels like such a betrayal of that legacy to now be leading the demise of animators and that very same industry. I can only imagine the conversations going on at Disney Animation Studios and Pixar this week. Let alone Lucasfilms, let alone Simpsons, let alone Fox, let alone all the other companies that are forced under this branded umbrella corporation. And I have a feeling this will only be the start. If this doesn't result in an immediate rejection of subscriptions that causes a reel back, then maybe another streaming service is going to run with the same idea. Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu coins to get credits to make AI Slop of the IP they own. Heck, you can make your own episodes now and send it to everyone else to watch instead. But you're not actually making it at all, the AI machine's just doing it for you. By this point, there was so much AI news coming from different parts of the globe, I was actually starting to fall behind, but there's other little squeaks beyond the big wig studios doing things, so our next video is simply called Are We Losing the Battle Against AI? Wrapping up all sorts of different continents' responses on AI. Western, Eastern, Belgium, you know. Welcome to what is unfortunately becoming a weekly series on the channel of upcoming terrible AI news. Welcome to Bad News Monday. It really does seem like every week now we get a new headline about the state of AI in animation somehow. Looking at it from the outside, it's like the traditional animation industry is under siege as AI tech companies bombard the media with their advances and animators try to hold on and keep, well, their jobs. While we had already seen Universal and Disney sue to protect their copyrights from AI companies, we now have the entrance of a new player on the field. Japanese animation studios like Studio Ghibli and Shueisha have thrown their hat into the ring and are joining the growing number of big studios pushing back against AI. That's great. Coda, which stands for Content Overseas Distribution Association, is a Japanese trade group which represents major animation studios like Studio Ghibli, as well as game studios like Bandai Namco and Square Enix. This organization recently sent out a formal request to OpenAI in October 2025, with the focus being to stop the company from using their copyrighted content for AI training without their express permission. And this move echoes the lawsuit jointly launched by Disney and Universal earlier this year. And to be honest, I'm not shocked to see Studio Ghibli is particularly getting involved here, as they were probably one of the biggest targets as well when AI came to take over everyone's IP. You've heard it before, AI Ghibli was a good trend for a while and is likely still around in promptings everywhere. And I'm sure that's partially the reason why they were so motivated to go against these companies, as it was one of the most popular styles for AI image generation, to the point that even the US government getting involved at one point, posting their own AI-generated Ghibli-style images. But it is the US government, so, you know, don't expect them to have much media literacy in understanding Ghibli movies anyway.
Thanks for the offer, but I'd rather be a pig than a fascist.
So naturally, the studio have taken a pretty strong stance against AI, choosing to take more experimental choices in the direction of 3D a few years ago with Earwig and the Witch, which ended up kind of disastrous, but I'm sure we'd all rather them try and make 3D work as opposed to going AI. Not to mention Hayao Miyazaki, of course, the super artist man of grit and human labor, isn't going to want someone to automate for him. In fact, we've seen a couple times of new artists trying to showcase generated content to him, to which he said, "That's incredibly insulting to me, and reminds me of my disabled neighbor." Blunt, but you could understand his stance. By the way, it's funny actually looking at some of these AI-generated Ghibli images because they just feel so off, right? Obviously, the AI doesn't understand how artists use warm colors to feel nostalgic, so it just kind of puts this piss yellow hue filter over everything. Though I guess it kind of fits in for the kind of people that would just slap together a Ghibli image. It's the same kind of blanket piss filter that you usually get in films set in Mexico for some reason. But either way, Ghibli and their Coda partners are fighting back against this blatant ripping off of their content and art styles, which is good news this week, right? Unfortunately, maybe I wouldn't quite count it as a win just yet. Because, first and foremost, as far as I can tell, Coda has just sent a strongly worded letter at the moment. This isn't an actual lawsuit. In terms of the actual lawsuits filed on the Western Front, allegiances vary. Whilst Disney has taken the side of copyright protection against AI models, they are still at least exploring the feasibility of developing AI content themselves. Oh, and also, the whole Disney Plus thing, this was recorded before Disney announced that they are also bringing their own generative AI to the service. We've got a whole dedicated video to that can of worms, but yes, that's also a thing. And this is the exact same stance as some of the coder companies as well. Square Enix, for example, have said that they want generative AI to be doing 70% of its QA and debugging by the end of 2027. So it's less about fighting AI as a whole, and more just about protecting copyrights of some of the wealthiest companies in the world. If this continues to be the stance that companies take, I'm not sure much will happen other than some light copyright control on AI generation models like Sora. Perhaps we'll see copyrighted terms banned, but other than that, I'm not sure there's much these companies can do. What legal mechanism exists for stopping AI scraping, especially when sometimes it's completely undetectable? Animation as an industry needs to hold firm against AI in as many places as they can. And just this year, the animation world has several contested battlegrounds in the war against AI. And the situation is rather dire in many of these places. Hollywood, for example, has been starting the process of recently opening up to AI in the animation space, not to mention with Disney Plus in America. Whilst many animation studios are resisting, like Illumination, which has taken a firm anti-AI stance. We're now seeing seriously talented, award-winning filmmakers turn to AI in their movie-making pipelines, especially on a lower budget too. Take, for example, Academy Award winners Michael Govier and Will McCormack. These two were behind the animated Netflix short, If Anything Happens, I Love You, which was released to accolades, scoring them their big win. It was a lovingly crafted, heartbreaking story dealing with the heavy concept of losing a child in a school shooting. It's deeply emotional and it's human. And now, those same creators are turning to generative AI to develop their new film, All Heart. What an ironic name. Their goal is to tell an extremely human story using AI animation techniques, but ironically, they are among the first to turn away from human labor for AI film techniques. Well, sort of. It's a bit complicated there. I can't tell if this is really worth worrying about. I mean, in my head, I assume all AI animation is bad, but I'm not sure this really classifies as AI slop, as it seems like they're using custom software only to help a team of animators animate using their unique style. We're coming to some of the grey areas on the in-between of this spectrum. If it's used in a way that can still maintain jobs, you just have consumable artists that are knowingly putting their art into an AI machine to replicate the rest. Is that just the new form of the job hierarchy in an AI animation pipeline? Is that bad? Kind of what Corridor Digital did a few years ago. I don't know where to stand on that. Because therein lies the convolution. I don't hate animation with AI-driven tools on principle. If that were the case, I'd probably not be able to watch any 3D Disney or Pixar movie from the last 10 years. Those companies have been pushing the envelope with new computer animation technology, and a lot of those things are driven by machine learning. Take the animated eyes in Pixar movies, or the elasticity of character skin in Disney 3D efforts. I'm really, truly fine with this. And if Govier and McCormack's AI workflow is more like that, just tools to do the job, I don't mind. But the question in terms of AI ethics is and always will be that of art theft. Hello there, thank you for making it to the halfway mark of this video. Come subscribe if you haven't already for more AI animation news. We'll be keeping up however begrudgingly we can, and chances are we'll keep it to the niche of animation specifically. If I talked about the drama of AI in every context, I'd ironically have to become an AI YouTube channel, and I hate even the title of that, no matter how critical it actually is. Anyway, let's get back to the second half of the AI battlegrounds across the globe, or whatever I title this thing. But the question in terms of AI ethics is and always will be that of art theft. AI models that scrape the work of others without permission and compensation are ethically dubious at best and downright criminal at worst, and I will never support the use of these models to replace the very artists that they steal from, especially when they look as ugly as they do, like all of the stuff I'm playing in the background of this video. We're not even going to address yet the horrendous shock humor that people have been using AI as a platform to spout out. This AI news is coming as too much too fast. So bringing it back to AI tools in the pipeline, this latest project could simply be leveraging of new tools that push the animation industry forwards, you know, the kind of thing that has always happened within this industry of creatives. But on the other hand, this looks like a slippery slope. It clearly isn't a team with a massive budget, and the idea of democratizing creativity isn't bad on paper, but this technology has the power to do a lot of damage when used sloppily. It's just a question of whether this counts as AI slop. Or more like the Spider-Verse sort of thing, with the AI-generated noses and in-betweens. I think a lot of this will come down to what the final project turns out to be, and hopefully we see the behind-the-scenes of how they made it. But certainly as a gut reaction, it leaves me, we'll see which way the needle leans. This kind of debate would have been a lot clearer just a few years ago, but again, right now, as things are, the battleground of the fight against AI gets more complicated and more messy every day. Because then there's also the indie question as well. As high-profile players in the industry have been embracing the new technology, it's gonna make it cheaper and cheaper for these companies to produce animation. At some point, there's no way indie animation companies will be able to keep up with either a premium quality human animation that provides a similar service to that which these companies used to produce, which isn't always possible, or B, sink into AI themselves. This feels like a slide into a total AI takeover of indie animation. If I Google it now, I can find a dozen or so tutorials on how to generate animated footage that's supposed to be Pixar quality. And I mean, yeah, it's clearly not Pixar quality, but the point still stands. The tools are out there and people are starting to embrace them, especially when they have no animation budget. There's outright, while trying to find new footage for the background of this video, dedicated Zootopia AI-generated shorts. It's a little bit more than just a singular shot, and there's all sorts of inconsistencies between the shorts, but directly on the Disney IP, AI generation is being used to tell new stories, and the first thing they go for is, abortions. Okay. I'd rather people learn how to animate and make something the traditional way. Or is that just the new boomer take of the older ways of animation? Well, hey, I'm happy to draw my line in the sand here, because at least I'm not stealing from real people. Maybe the general idea of this is excusable on an indie level, but on a corporate professional level, it's just downright depressing. Jump back a few years to the early 2020s, just before this AI animation mess really blew up, and studios would have to employ many people to develop an animated short film. But now you see major companies like Coca-Cola releasing those AI adverts for the holidays again that employ so very few people comparatively. I mean, they're claiming they employed about 100 people to work on that AI commercial, but then had to go out of their way to pretend that it was animated by hand when it definitely wasn't. And besides, they basically reused the exact same ad last year, just redone with slightly better AI technology. You can kind of compare the two as like a litmus test of how far animation's come in a year. Either way, it's so lazy. And the fact that they're claiming that this is authentic, that is a real problem there. The state of this ongoing battle, looking at how companies are fighting back against the technology, is that companies really don't care about anything but their own bottom line. And once the money flows in for AI, it is a cash flow that they won't ignore. If you think it's bad now, when there's money to be made, we'll be looking at a whole new slate of corporate-backed AI horrors driven by advances in AI video tech with very little regulation. Disney Plus. And I bet it won't even take that much money. As long as it turns a profit, it doesn't matter how low the quality is. Oh god, that too. From lawsuits from Disney and Universal in the West to strongly worded letters over in the East, the European market going down to AI slop for children's content with Belgium and Maya and the Bee, as well as top tier creatives around Netflix on the high end and indie YouTube videos on the low end. Sometimes it really does feel like we're already losing the battle against AI, specifically in the niche of animation. Although it doesn't look too great anywhere else. Maybe we'll also have to put together a guide of how to spot AI writing. Is it just a foregone conclusion? Well, the dark side of AI animation may be quick and easy, but the way we can fight it all really is quite simple. Resist the temptation to use AI to animate yourself, and don't spend money watching any AI content either. Don't go and see the first AI movie, you know? Build good stuff without it. If you've considered animation, take a shot at learning Blender or another software. Because if there's so much slop on the way, if anything, it's gonna make human work shine even brighter than it otherwise would. A lot of indie animators start out raw, with their work choppy and ugly even, and even that would be guaranteed to look more interesting than the badly homogenized AI-generated look of films like Critters. Animation is slow, but it is so rewarding. So try to tell the story you want to tell. Learn and take things step by step. Well, hey, maybe there's going to be a growing trend of unfinished shots so that it looks incomplete to prove that it was built up to that point. You know? A rise of not perfect lighting anymore, and early behind-the-scenes footage. Interesting. At the end of the day, when the money does start flowing in, the best thing to remember is vote with your wallet. As long as there is a more ethical, better quality alternative to AI animation, I think it makes sense to put our time and money there, instead of with this slop. So we roll on naturally from there to one that actually makes a lot of sense. There was always going to be this kind of bubble of an event going on. It's the very first AI film festival. Not only being an obvious choice that's gonna be in its own little opinion bubble, but also remembering some of the small print that works for this film festival is just so emblematic of things. You'll see. I am going insane from the amount of AI animation news coming out this fast. Because already, I've seen more AI news to wake up to this morning. And it is so debilitating. I promise we're going to talk about normal animation sometimes. But no, apparently submissions open now for the first AI film festival. In case you were wondering how far AI animation has already ingrained itself, they've just launched the first ever fully fledged festival for it. I thought it was only just a few weeks ago we were talking about the first AI movie. There's now gonna be dozens. This is the Frame Forward AI Animated Festival. Just rolls off the tongue. The first ever global festival dedicated to AI-enabled animation. A worldwide celebration of apparent creators getting trophies for a project that some software just made for them. And chances are run off someone else's IP. Is Disney gonna submit to this themselves? They are running AI as well. And this is being run by a tech company who also supplies AI technology for US defense. What is this rabbit hole I'm falling into? We'll get onto that in a bit. This is just our reality now, and you better enjoy it whilst we have some semblance of recognizing what reality even is. We've seen all the AI animation online. We've known a lot of it's happening. Not much surprise that there's now enough out there to dedicate a festival to it too. The official wording in the festival's press release is that it's where animation, artificial intelligence, and human creativity meet. Not at all where human creativity hands over the baton to artificial intelligence. If you want to enter, although I don't know what the criteria is to be a competing slot master, submissions are now apparently open. All you need to do is produce a short. We've only really got Critters currently trying to disrupt the feature-length space and give AI its apparent Toy Story moment. Still hate that they're even calling it that. But the organizers behind this are Modern Uprising Studios, which honestly seems very appropriate for the machine uprising that they're playing their part in. Their criteria for this festival is original short films that incorporate AI tools in their storytelling or production process, showcasing how technology is expanding the creative toolbox for the next generation of filmmakers. Well, they're really running with trying to say this is revolutionary and breaking the boundaries rather than just mostly a bunch of shots of characters staring at the camera. With the winning filmmaker getting a bona fide theatrical release with presumably many asterisks on the end of that claim. Considering a lot of movies don't get that in the age of streaming, that's a pretty impressive deal, considering this is exclusively short films entering this too. Man, if this is actually going to be a physical event, you think I could attend? Film festivals have normal critics. Why can't there be an AI critic coming? Also, random fact of the week for you. The Pope, of all people, endorsed the theatrical experience the other day, saying, "Cinemas are the beating hearts of our communities." Well, I'm sorry, Leo, but that beating heart is about to be filled with AI slop, so you're welcome. What most surprises me, if anything, I'm getting pretty jaded pretty quickly on this, is that it sounds like there's only one award even being given out here, with no distinction between who's used AI in the story or the production process. Like, those feel like two very different things to me. Using AI for the script or AI for the animation. So in theory, a few animators could just redraft part of the script on ChatGPT and win this? with otherwise no other AI use? To be fair, I'd love it if something like that happened. A fully produced human movie trolling this festival by revealing afterwards that they only used AI to come up with the title. In fact, it's not even the first time we've had AI controversies in competitions. Very often in the art competition world, there are scenarios of the winner of a human art competition revealing that they are actually using AI. I remember this happening on a big scale with a Pokemon cards competition at one point, and I believe I have heard of the opposite as well, of an AI art competition trumped by a human submission. What a time we're living in. It hits film festivals too. But even just the fact they haven't clarified animation versus the creative storytelling just tells me this isn't even a well thought out award system anyway. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the whole idea was just slapped together by ChatGPT. Maybe giving away a singular blanket award for AI is exactly the kind of praise blending down that the AI industry needs. I don't know, man. It's just ironic, you know? Clearly the organizers are not the smartest people, and they're part of the US defense. Anyway, presumably the slop that'll actually come through this competition will be doing a little bit of both the scripting and the animation. Alas, they haven't even bothered to make that distinction. Like AI as a whole, the criteria at least seems completely unregulated. And sure, this is a new technology that anyone can use and potentially compete in something like this. And at least for the moment, there's a bit more to it than just typing one thing in and immediately a movie's there. But the everyone can be an animator part feels very syndrome-y to me.
When everyone's super, no one will be.
It's that classic lie of they're democratizing the creative process, but it's very much also not really applying creatively. I really do think that syndrome quote exactly represents what AI is against creatively talented people. It's very much, we don't need you anymore, we've got gadgets that just copy your work. And just like Syndrome's gadgets, it's just imitating people's actual gifts, not actually creating as it supposedly is. And that's just what this festival embodies for me. It's just saying anyone can be an animator, leading us on the path to nobody really being an animator. With all the festivals out there that creative people work towards every year to get their start in the industry, this feels like just a mockery of that. Finalists will get to have their work showcased with a potential 14,000 screenings in 2,300 theaters across all 50 states. Oh, wow. And I'm just left here looking at the incredible stuff we've seen on YouTube from talented animators who have never had an opportunity like that. Instead, we have this company using these tools as an inevitable future that we cannot avoid. Hey there, thank you for making it to the halfway mark of this video. Come subscribe if you haven't already for more AI animation news. I swear this is not going to be the only content I release. Like, how's about some Wallace and Gromit spin-offs or a 7-hour compilation that I'm currently brewing? A terrible movie that came out in 2025. Those are all planned uploads for this week, but when there's big news like this suddenly dropping, I'll also be covering that too. So come join if you're interested in any of that. It's all things animation, good and bad. Otherwise, let's get back to the second half of this one. This feels like the creative equivalent of when corporations ignored initial evidence that asbestos may not be the safest material in the world and instead continued saying, this is the best stuff to build your houses with. Right now, we have the evidence that AI will be damaging to employment prospects for everyone. And big tech is now the one still saying that AI is the best thing for the creative industries, despite that evidence. And they'll do anything to peddle this narrative. Reports suggest that this year's Coke Christmas ad may have been even more expensive from its use of AI than an actual production using humans, despite apparently being the new alternative that'll make production easier and more cost-effective. Doesn't look like the case right now. Another quote for you. Frame Forward showcases the evolution of generative AI, highlighting how filmmakers are using these tools to push the creative envelope to bring their stories to life. Their stories? That's debatable phrasing, really, isn't it? It's just another example of how we've now crossed the line here so long ago that they're pretending this isn't one because it's now so far in the distance. It doesn't matter how involved the humans were in this competition, it can compete in this nonetheless. And I think that specific open blanket criteria really shows the true intention behind a hollow festival like this. So yes, I do stand by the notion that this competition should be renamed Slop Master. As for the Slop Kings themselves, you're probably not surprised to hear that modern uprising studios have a big stake in AI animation becoming a successful industry. They describe themselves as redefining what's possible in 2D to 3D animation and immersive storytelling, which just feels like the rhetoric every AI company uses nowadays. Probably because they got their precious robot to come up with that as well. They don't even call themselves an animation studio or film studio. No, they class themselves as a creative content studio, just all the buzzwords. Because if I want anyone running a short film festival, it's a creative content studio. Enter our festival and give us some precious content, my pretties. I wouldn't even be surprised if it's a front just to blend down other people's work so they can claim it and license it as their own. Oh man, wouldn't that be something? An AI scam at an AI film festival. Scamming everyone who contributes. Is that ironically doing good? What a grey area. I don't know why I've made them sound like they're the Wicked Witch. Maybe it's because it's Wicked coming out this week. Anyway, this studio aren't actually their own thing. They are actually the entertainment division of big tech company Toro Science, a company that is also developing AI-informed technology for US defense purposes. Or is that the Department of War now? I'm struggling to keep up. So I guess with that in mind, you want to submit some AI short films for the military tech company? I should probably add that it was a group of veterans who founded the company, so to that degree it at least explains the military connection, and they're also providing technology to the healthcare sector too, so I guess that's something, but it is US healthcare, so pretty insidious. It's not exactly the NHS. Maybe we'll also have Terminator skeletons in 10 years. We're basically already there on the Skynet front. I can see why advanced technology is good to invest in healthcare. I certainly prefer that to AI movies. And apparently one of these services is AI-powered music therapy for young people with cancer. Which is a great service to provide. But surely a talented human can do that. Does it need to be AI music? What is this? There are actual selfless musicians doing that with their raw creativity who get a fraction of the investment these computers are getting to do the same thing. Getting an AI interface to take this work away from people who dedicate themselves to helping people just feels a bit sick to me. And yes, this is all the same company now running this film festival. The winner will also get the full Toro Science treatment, their IA film also getting an immersive adaptation production via Celeste, Modern Uprising Studios' proprietary immersive rendering engine, and support for submission to leading international film festivals. So the already generated movie will be regenerated again by Toro Science themselves. Film submissions are now open through December 2025, with the winner being announced in March 2026 for theatrical exhibition. So new year, new slop. You better get cracking, everyone. God, I'd love if a human prompt actually gets through, but then they're also being submitted to be regenerated anyway, so there's no good ending. Damn. These platforms aren't gonna generate those prompts themselves. Yet. The fact that there's even enough of it to justify a film festival is depressing on its own. But it's also kind of unsurprising. I wonder if Coke will submit their adverts to this. I mean, why not at this point? I think this would be the cherry on top if this big tech organized film festival was then won by a big corporation over all the indie entries. Although ironically, they probably don't want their product blended into another AI engine. So maybe a big IP won't actually run with it because of IP protections. And wouldn't that just be the most ironic thing from an AI film festival in the first place? What a beautiful encapsulation of our modern world that is. Okay, so this next problem we've got going on is an interesting one I really wanted to write as more of this AI news completely bombarded us with awful negative ideas and executions. This is ethical AI. Is it theoretically possible? Gathering all of the past AI techniques we've heard about up to this point and blending together the most ethical version. I think it's an interesting pitch, certainly a discussion I'd like to hear more of online. Not to defend it or normalize it, but to just try something good, you know? Either way, this video actually ended up underperforming a little bit compared to all the other AI stuff, but I still think it's very interesting. Check a look at this. Welcome everybody to Anti-AI Monday, so it seems. And thankfully, at least on the animation front, there isn't actually too much AI news. Finally, we've been given a break. But then you come to the images side of things. Because in case you weren't aware, Google has now added their latest update in the AI image generation game with Nano Banana, which is able to produce, so they say, 99% accurate photorealistic images. And when you look at some of the stuff, yeah, it does look that way. Nightmares. It very much seems like generative AI technology keeps expanding its presence into our lives. It truly feels like it's becoming omnipresent and inescapable. And it is a grim reminder of how bad things can get. Obviously, I didn't do anything for Thanksgiving, but a member of my team spent Thanksgiving spending a good chunk of time with a family member who was just addicted to scrolling through AI Instagram reels. And it only took pointing out that they were fake each and every time for them to dismiss it. In this case, it was just funny animal videos, but this story made me realize the potential impact this technology has as it only continues to get better and more accurate. So today, I want to do a little bit of an interesting thought experiment. I want to play devil's advocate here because it very much seems inevitable that AI is coming for animation, no matter what we say or what we do. So, as a silver lining to all of this nightmare, today I'm going to try to come to the conclusion on if there is any ethical way to use generative AI in animation. Because there is a lot of examples of Gen AI being used currently, and I kind of hate all of it. Obviously, right? Disney AI is a thing that is now being planned over on the Disney Plus platform, seemingly trying to be an AI shorts content kind of social media tab, gutting for what the Sora 2 app already has, but now with blatant copyright infringements of Disney characters that the company owns the rights to, but the artists made all of the foundational groundwork of up to this point. Terrible, right? And in an almost entirely identical front, but on the other side of a lawsuit, how ironic, you have the likes of Sora 2 AI and OpenAI with generative AI models that are just blatant copyright infringements, scraping the internet for every artistic source they can find and releasing it to the public so that everyone can get on board with the art theft. It's only a problem when they use Disney characters because they have the money to actually sue them for it. And when it comes to the bulk of AI animation that's come out, like the stuff I'll be shuffling in this video, plenty simply use these fully generative models in order to make shot for shot some sort of trailer or movie or storyboard. They simply use the direct model usage of OpenAI or Sora 2 in order to paste it all together and do 100% of the work for them, minus the words at the beginning for a prompt. Often using these early days preliminary models that are routinely screwed up that right now are kind of funny because they're inaccurate, but they won't be the more functionally correct they get. It's funny for the absurd premises and shock humor people like to go to straight away. And maybe as well, that alone could be something problematic, that these models actually have the knowledge of these problematic premises to then regurgitate out with seemingly very little restrictions. That alone is its own ethical nightmare. But on the most basic preliminary AI animation front, that is clearly a terrible usage and incredibly unethical along the way. And even when that's just done by a random person on a whim with no intentions or awareness of malice, you then also have actual mainline professionals getting in with this exact same model, with another example being the AI movie coming up soon, Critters, which is simply using a model, and it's terrible. From the short film teaser we've had in the past, it's just a bunch of creatures staring at the camera, because it was very early days generative AI, and the fact that it's terrible only makes it look even worse. But the whole idea is bad as well. Even if it's supposedly being used to create original characters and creatures, it's clearly still going to be derivative of whatever artist's work were blended together to make the AI model functional in the first place. Essentially, as the very first hurdle and point towards what makes AI animation ethical or not, is simply the use of these AI models being intrinsically art theft. OpenAI, Sora 2, Nano Banana, what a weird name by the way, like why don't you just call yourself Micro Penis? This sounds like the AI generation that Microsoft would have made, you know? Nano Banana, are we serious? Anyway, each of these AI models, through the very sources they have scraped together, immediately make them each completely unethical to use. That is a blanket bottom line. These will never be correct. In order to make a version of AI animation that is in theory ethical, first things first, you would need, I think, a custom AI model in order to circumnavigate this. And there would need to be certain restrictions and ideals and foundational elements to this new AI model in order to be ethical. But we'll get there as we go. That's like a 0.1 along the way. And the concept of a custom AI model isn't even totally alien in this AI animation industry already, as there is at least one we know up front and center in the form of Coca-Cola. They have their own AI model titled Real Magic, fully created in-house to make their own version of AI generation without having to rely on those pesky bad guys OpenAI and Sora and Micropenis. Now, whether that new Real Magic AI model is sourced ethically itself is a whole other matter, and I don't think I got very high hopes. But it is at least plausible for companies to rely on in-house AI models not available for public consumption and, in theory, could be made with a more ethical source. So jot that down, a custom AI model is possible, and part of the steps towards, maybe, ethical AI animation. We still might come to the conclusion that no, there is no way, but I'm trying my best here. I'm playing devil's advocate where I possibly can. And though Google Nano Banana may be the latest toy to play around with, and I'm sure we'll see all sorts of more AI stuff from them soon, with it being open to even more photorealism, that comes with its own all sorts of potential impact. I mean, just straight up on the actual real-life ethical front, having a generative AI model that doesn't have restrictions for who you can have involved in said images with prompts that were previously banned under Google's AI system and now is not so, certainly seems to be an interesting pathway to allow you to make certain pictures of events to discredit future controversies. That is horrendous on its own, and muddying the waters that you have to use Google AI in order to scan an image for whether it was made by AI as well. Ethical nightmare. In the run-up for what is the least ethical AI model, I kind of think Google's Nano Banana is getting to the bottom of the barrel. But at the very least, while it's photos and photorealism, it's just doing what Photoshop already does. But it is quickly a slippery slope in the real world. Or the not quite real world, but surprisingly accurate. What's worse is this kind of stuff signifies that an extreme likelihood will eventually be that AI video generation will get to this same place, via Google or any of them. An extreme likelihood will eventually be that AI video generation will get to this same place, via Google or any of them. And that's not only terrible for the animation industry, but for live action performers too, who would be replaced by AI. It's just terrible for workers in general, and that's another hurdle we're gonna have to work out first. In fact, we already have AI actors now. Not only are you able to have AI-generated fake photorealistic people to do voiceovers and appear in videos, but even in live action, of course, we have the main upfront actress who made headlines a couple months ago. I hate this, and I reckon most people do. We don't want to watch a live-action movie without the humans in it, you know? The very act of storytelling is an artistic expression of a human experience or imagination. By replacing them simply with AI generations of people, you lose something along the way, typically. But is there any room for an AI replacement of a person? Well, there is an example I can think of. It's an interesting discussion of its own. It loops us back to bloody Disney again. But it is AI generation for the deceased. Back when James Earl Jones passed away, it was noted that Disney actually was given consensual rights to use the voice of Darth Vader after his passing. This was a contractual right given via full consent in order to continue the usage of an actor's performance beyond their time on this world. And the fact that it was taken via real living consent absolutely opens the door to this potentially being ethical usage, even if the final result is technically puppeteering a now dead person. In this case, it was mostly simply the voice for Darth Vader, with his design obviously being pretty inhuman from the outside. But there is an argument to whether in the future, having actors choosing to appear on screen after they're gone would be something potentially accepted. Ethical, I don't know, but at least it was taken via their choice. And I certainly would hate if we got to a scenario where the estate of someone passed simply gave consent, as opposed to the person while they were physically living. That's an unethical spin. It's a future we're gonna get to, I can tell you now. And whilst there is the conversation of the rights around someone's, forgotten the word for it, but look, presence, existence. There have also been examples of the complete opposite, where consent was seemingly stolen, like in the example of extras in a Netflix show, or how there was these SAG-AFTRA strikes because there were contractual obligations for extras to give up their likeness, that was the word, likeness, to these companies so they could be used and repurposed as extras in the background of shots. And that's pretty terrible, especially without financial compensation. Now that's a point we'll get into. So the slippery slope argument between that is simply having the correct crediting for the person being used in their AI spin, especially when consensual, allows an easing of the negativity in association with it. I also think a big part of it will be the transparency of knowing whether something is AI produced or what they gathered from their AI sources. The kind of thing you could slap together in the credits at the end, but is very important, especially in a day and age where video games are being mass refunded because they have far more AI slop than previously marketed. It's a thing that we want to know if AI is being used, let alone used ethically. You can't hide it. That's unethical in itself. Whilst on the flip side, if we do go into the contractual right obligations of someone using your likeness or your voice in animation and films in general, there is then the element of future contracts all requiring AI consent, or else you don't get to enter the animation or film industry at all. It's not perfect no matter how we try to spin it. Unless a studio doesn't do that. You know, a silver lining. Not everyone's the same. Like Illumination hating AI when everyone else is doing it. Yet another integral point to making AI ethical is you have to have the aim to avoid art theft itself, as well as compromising any rights without consent. There are some other bizarre examples of AI being used in an interesting way with an ethical slippery slope to it. Take, for example, that old Will Smith concert, whereby there was real footage of this concert experience, but for some reason they pasted over it with AI in order to emphasize it? I don't know. It looked weird and it looked sloppy, and that lack of quality certainly adds to a negativity associated with AI. But at the same time, the use of AI to polish up a final product isn't entirely hated, especially when it's on the back end of more technical issues. Take, for example, AI upscaling. It's not perfect, and sometimes can look terrible, but if it works functionally as a high-quality thing that simply boosts the resolution, and if it certainly was imperceptibly good quality, a lot of people accept it consuming it, and a lot of people accept it producing it. Even recently, Adobe has recently added on their video editing software Premiere Pro to do automated video rotoscoping. It's not quite the same thing, it's an AI tool, but being able to cut someone out and put text behind them, I'm not going to do it, I don't have the update, is as well an AI back-end thing that you could argue is animation, it's animating keyframes around a body, that is generally well accepted, especially if it doesn't take away a job along the way. Adobe in general is open to generative AI in their Photoshop works in general. Sometimes it's the kind of thing of deleting someone in the background or adding a smile or removing blur, and again, they're AI tools that are accepted. When it comes to generative of, hey, make this frame bigger, we are less inclined towards it. It's interesting, isn't it? When it's small, intricate details of changing slightly what is reality, that's kind of just like what Photoshop has always done in the past, but when it's outright replacing and inventing new territory, we ain't quite so hot on it. Especially in this decade, I wonder if it'll be the same in 30 years. Or 2. Even still, all that to say, another point to note, if it's a booster for something on the technical back end, it is generally accepted in photography, depending especially on the quality. If AI slop looks like slop, it will likely never be accepted, but as AI technology improves and becomes less sloppy, you will probably find these things more acceptable. Whether that changes the ethicality of it, we'll see. We still got more points to cover though. Other examples of modern day AI usage in animation is the unfortunate use of what I'm describing as consumable artists. We talked about this previously with a couple of Netflix creators who have decided to make their own AI movie, but they're not technically conducting art theft because they're hiring artists to create a style and then getting an AI model to use the style created with these artists choosing to be blended into the machine. Similarly, a couple years ago, the Corridor Digital YouTube channel did a similar thing, at first doing just a general artist from the 90s, and then afterwards using a consumable artist to create an art style that they then pasted over live action. The kind of thing that an artist would otherwise have to manually do frame by frame, as like a boosted version of rotoscoping itself, but it wasn't perceived very well because it was either art theft or the concept of a consumable artist, which is, you know, a grey area, to say the least. That one as well is a particularly interesting case because it's putting art style over live action. I don't know even where to start with that one. But generally though, big point here, of course, if we haven't mentioned it already, art theft is a major negative for AI production. But it is interesting to note that there are attempts to incorporate artists into the process, even generatively. So maybe there's a spin that can be used on that. And so, as we're starting to come to a conclusion, I'm going to put all these points together to give you a pitch towards the end of this. But we do also have 3 mainline 3D animation studios and their usage of AI that can open up a little bit of the options for us. Now, Pixar, of course, have had a long-running technological push in most of the things that they make. There are documentations of all sorts of products they've created pushing the boundaries of their technology, and some of it does include generative AI, more so in the likes of generating a fire for Elemental, but there are other elements of them testing things in the background and not actually applying them to their movies that is interesting to see. As a technological push, AI would make sense as something to poke around with if you can find the correct spin. Meanwhile, Sony and Spider-Verse have found a decent spin with them using generative AI for facial features for their characters. In these cases, they're not at all removing the jobs of an animator, they're simply creating an AI tool workflow in order to improve the efficiency and allow the building of facial structure that would otherwise be quite menial to a human day by day. And going even further than that, there is also this theoretical one from Disney coming out, whereby they have a demonstration of using generative AI simply for the in-betweenings of animation. This is from Disney's own presentation, but essentially they're implying that humans do the main keyframes, the defining features of emotion, and generative AI simply fills the gaps in between those points and does the menial in-between work that's not really animation, it's just point A to point B. Is that animation? How do you define that? Is that just keyframing, or is that the part of the thing you couldn't make a human not do? Again, it's all slippery slopes. I'm trying my best to find an ethical spin against all of this. But in that case as well, it doesn't remove an animator's job, it just boosts the efficiency of what they need to do. They get to do the actual artistic point of designing a motion, and the AI simply makes the motion happen, using it as an AI tool whilst humans produce the primary component of what the animation actually is. Okay, so with all of that together, we've seen several examples of how Gen AI is currently being used and how it could be spun with certain different elements in order to possibly be the least unethical version that it currently is. Let's put all of those pieces together, and I'm going to come up now with a pitch for the most ethical version of generative AI I can think of in the animation industry. But at the end of the day, this is still going to be pretty choppy. We're going to see what we can do. So, hey there you can make it to the halfway mark of this video. Come subscribe if you haven't already for more anti-AI news, coverage, and thoughts. I like to cover all things animation, and AI is unfortunately a growing part of it now. So come along if you're interested in more, and let's get back to the second half of if it's possible to do AI ethically. We're going to see what we can do. So, the very, very first thing at the center of this idea is you would need a new custom generative AI model. One that is built entirely on sources taken with consent. This is one of the main issues with generative AI. It scrapes from the internet and it's theft from artists. You need a new model that we've seen can be custom made and all sourced ethically via either consent from the artist involved or as some sort of commissions and residual rate. That's my big pitch there. Every time you use the model, it is transparent on what sources it's using to build it, and gives out residuals to any artist who have consented to having their work implanted in said model. It can be minuscule, 1/100th of a penny every time a frame is used, but going on the logic that so much AI animation is actually produced, it would still work to be a notable amount of residuals. This is something you just have to work out in the contracts. You know in the modern day it's going to be exploitatively low, but if there's room for residuals to have a real impact in their usage in AI, it's the closest you could get to consensual art theft. In the same way of a consumable artist, it's an artist sending away their art to be commissioned, and the AI simply takes scrapes of it and pays their artists for their work. Theft, but also being paid. Funnily enough, actually, as a controversial anecdote for you, I was actually offered an AI opportunity for my YouTube channel. An AI company approached me and said, we would like to pay you to take all of your videos and put it into our machine. We're trying to make an ethically sourced AI model. Now, I don't actually think we got to a point of the conversation where they gave me a number. I think it would have been somewhere around 20 and 30,000 pounds for all of my stuff. I didn't end up taking it, obviously, but I do think it's an interesting conversation of, for a start, would you have hated me more that I chose to put my video into an AI making machine? Or would you have said, well, you might as well get paid because otherwise another AI machine's going to come in and take it forcibly? I already know my original Playmobil video is in some AI machine thanks to a website that shares the transparency of that in fact got taken. It's an interesting discussion, but I do think it is, at least in this case, the best case scenario for actual good ethical usage of AI if it has to be used at all. Residuals is the central point based off of a custom AI model. But there's all sorts more here. Because as for what the AI is actually generating, we of course would most likely want it to be used in order to simply accelerate an animator's role. You would want AI tools for the menial work and minimizing actual job losses. More so than that as well, I would presume we would only want it to be generative for the in-betweens of animation and the likes like that, and perhaps the designing of the characters if it's baked off of something else. If it is, this is the character we're building, you have someone sculpt that character once with all the angles and whatever, and then the AI can then plant that character into a shot, doing the intricacies of the design, so you don't have to constantly resculpt. Not that that's how it works in 3D animation anyway. Maybe just the in-betweens. The main point that I'm trying to say here, maybe a better way to word it, is you would want human touch for the upfront elements of the actual animation. You want a human to be able to dictate how an animation is animated, and the AI is only used for the back ends, the background stuff, but the humans contribute the main bit of the animation, whatever that entails, whether that is the shot list and the framing, the main keyframes of an animation, an AI can run the logic behind a scene. Furthermore than that, you of course need to have full credits to the artist and creators baked into this AI generation, however best you can. I think it could easily be a simple thing of in the credits to say this was created by the bleebity blab AI model. Here's a list of all of our artists that we used in particular shots. If you can have a model that is transparent on what sources it used per shot or frame so that you can directly say, oh, it didn't use 100% of its sources, it only used these, and then you are transparent about that, it's probably the best ethical spin you can make. Beyond, pay them with residuals. More so than that, going similar to the custom AI idea, it would probably be best for this to be a private AI model, not fit for public consumption. It allows for these models to not be actually exploited to go far beyond their means, unless it itself came with a subscription service that pays for the artist being used in residuals. You know, you can't use this character without paying for it a little bit, and that money goes towards the person who designed that character. That makes the most logical sense if you had to do public consumption. Otherwise, I'd cull it entirely. What you want as well is minimal jobs removed, wherever possible. But the other thing that is particularly hard to manage, and we haven't mentioned this whole time, is making sure it has an environmentally minimal impact. Now, this is a massive hurdle to handle, and it's not gonna be that easy. AI generation uses up a lot of water and energy and resources that are not infinite. And as it currently stands, it is massively wasteful in efficiency and functionality. Making an AI model that is minimally impactful is probably likely impossible, but workable piece by piece. Chances are this general problem will get better with time. As the technology of AI improves, it will likely become more efficient and better at its job, and hopefully becomes more environmentally efficient over time as well. But on the other hand, take for example that AI Coca-Cola advert. Supposedly it used like 60 or 70,000 shots, and artists had to go through and refine what version of a shot they need. That kind of need for refinement and a complete smorgasbord of generation just doesn't cut it environmentally. The fact that AI generation models have to produce an entire shot, and then if you need to make a tweak, it produces an entirely new shot from scratch, is an obvious problem. So the next thing you probably need is more on the back end of how an AI model generates, because the next best step, especially on the environmental front, is having more human controls in how the AI model is used and generated. It needs to be a model that allows you to tweak individual details specifically, rather than scrapping it all and starting again. What I'm asking for here is an AI generation model that produces an animation workflow, even if generatively. i.e., I don't want a rendered video, I want a rendered 3D edited space, you know? I want a behind the scenes scene of here's what I built. You can see the window, you can press play, there's the whole shot playing. Now, if you want to go in and tweak the facial structure, if you want to go in and change the keyframes, if you want to change the lighting, the scene is generatively built, not just the final rendered video. That already, I guess, is a beefy generation, but it's a kind of generation that allows tweaking for individual elements that might be more environmentally impactful or less, because I'm basically asking for a 3D element out of a 2D generated result, if that makes sense. If the rendered video is a 2D plane, I'm asking for a 3D deep pan thing. But that's probably the next best option. It doesn't generate the final product, it generates the production itself. Crazy, but also probably the best version of an ethical AI. Artistically and environmentally. Furthermore, there's other things you can use the AI for that's not as particularly hated, generally sprucing up some of the post-production, where best. AI upscaling is dealable, especially if the quality isn't actually lost. Successful lighting additions you could ask for, but also just get an animator to chuck it in. But if it's built in there, we wouldn't know or hate it. I hate this. Or repurposing for alternative formats. It's the same as just rendering it again, but now in vertical. If an AI model does that for you, cool, great, you know, naturally rescaling. It's more just AI tools in the back end you could do. So let's say you go further down the line, so you produce this AI movie, it's got crediting, residuals, human work at the forefront, it generates a scene and gets tweaked and upscaled, whatever. When it comes to making a poster design, a generative image, you're just gonna hate it. I don't know really how you could spin a generative AI poster well, unless it had really a few of these notable things. Unfortunately, the first one is probably the hardest, which is that it would be accepted if it was impassably good quality. If you can't tell the image is AI generated, it'll be more accepted. I think one of the big problems with AI slop, amongst everything else, is the slop. What's the point of slapping together a lazy movie if the final result is itself not high quality? I'm not going to consume a sloppy movie, whether it's human or AI, unless ironically, on the human front. If you can make AI generation so good that I can't tell it's AI, that's better because it's not sloppy AI. It's not great, but it's better. Furthermore, I guess when it comes to poster designs, I would want it to also be artistically inclined, you know? Kill the floating heads, I don't care how well they work. If it's a lazy image with no good composition, we're not going to enjoy it. We want quality, if anything. And really what you probably need, what I'm asking for, is it's to still be edited by the human touch, you know? If the faces are going the wrong direction, have a human go in and Photoshop it better. It's the best you can do, man. There are other elements of AI usage seen and could be used in movies. They're kind of getting diminishing returns at this point, like AI scripting work. This is hard to find a spin. You could perhaps use it for writer's block. Hopefully you never see that part of the process. Because generally, when it comes to AI scripting, it's only ever really going to regurgitate cliches. And though you can make the argument that every story is derivative of something these days, it also still means, especially if produced by AI, that it's never gonna create the best version of a movie. You could ask for more back-end stuff, better ways to link it to the general themes of a story, but a human writer would feasibly be better here at every step along the way. It's only better for efficiency if you remove that writer, and that's not ethical. It's not even that great for rhyming or songwriting, you know? Just hire a songwriter. And in fact, when we learn that anything could be faintly AI scripted, it gets all sorts of backlash, so just ignore it. There was briefly controversy around whether K-pop Demon Hunter's Soda Pop song was written by AI in order to sound soulless. I don't think that's the case. I think it just came and went, that drama. But we had the same thing with Disney's Wish. With their songs being so low quality, it was accused of AI. Just don't do that one. Skip it entirely for an ethical spin. If you had to get it in there, it would need to be absolutely perfect and of high quality. That's kind of how you do ethical AI, you hide it. But then that's not ethical, it's the paradox here. And then one final angle is the very prevalent AI voiceover. And, just no. This is always poor quality. It always takes away a job. And unless it's done on residuals as well, voice actors consenting to their voice and being paid pennies per second used, I don't really think there's a good spin until the quality gets good and you get full credit. The idea of me inserting my voice into an AI model and getting paid each time someone else uses it doesn't sound terrible. You know, give me pennies per word or an upfront fee for usage, whatever's cheaper. That's the best spin I could think, fully consensual and paid. Or similarly, you again do it for the deceased. Residuals going to the estate, but specifically consented by the person while they're alive, not consented by the estate. It gets funky, you know? And when it comes to AI music, it's unfortunately more accepted. I think more so because there's humor to it, you know? There's a lot of comedy to be made around AI voice covers, even if they're unethically produced, because it does take away from the performer and the voice replicant. That being said, the music industry itself is always an exploitative poison, but residuals in that front would probably fix that answer too. So, gathering all those good spins together and summarizing it into a solid core, here is my pitch for the most ethical way you could run AI-generated animation. It's not perfect, I'm playing devil's advocate, but this is what I think it would most look like. Tell me what you think. So, I would request a custom AI model, ethically sourced with full consent and residuals to any sources used, be it voice acting, artist designs, or somebody's likeness. They all are credited, it's fully transparent which sources were used, and everyone is fairly compensated. Generation-wise, the model generates an animation workflow that allows it to be manually customized by a set of animators on the small intricate details, so as to not create a full redo of a shot every time you need to change the way somebody smiles. You also need to have the human effort of the animation work at the forefront of this thing. They work on the main keyframes of an animation, the general idea, the composition, and the actual artistry in it, and the AI simply works on the menial back-end stuff that's more so wastes a lot of time to boost the efficiency of the animators that haven't lost their jobs working on this. With these latest two things in mind, it gives us minimum generation and minimal job loss. The final product then needs to be polished to a point of removing all sloppiness. In order for AI to be ethical, it needs to be incredibly premium high quality. Because no matter how great the sources are, if you're feeding us slop, you're feeding us slop. Remove the slop in AI slop, and you get better towards it. If you create imperceptible high quality created via that human touch, that is probably the most ethical and well-produced version of generative AI animation. Bonus points make it artistically sound, likely from the use of the humans individually tweaking it to make it actual cinema, actual literature that has something to contribute or tell a message and isn't just fuel to the fire that is slop shorts content. And there you have the best version of what I can spin as an ethical version of AI animation, whilst at the same time there are some problems with that conclusion. Like, I'm asking for a model that is not publicly accessible. It's not free, and it's not open. It's not the democratization of the creative field, as people say, mainly because this way, it is not theft. But is keeping it private in and of itself flawed? Does that narrow the options only to the already rich companies making AI animation, like Coca-Cola? Or would it be better to request a subscription service to an ethical AI model that can do things in the best possible way, while still having a barrier to entry if it creates a workflow that people have to learn to animate with anyway? It's not perfect, but the fact of the matter is, AI generation in all forms is coming at our world at a breakneck pace, and so many examples in the real world are just so unethically put together that it's debilitating to think about. And while Google micropenis is out there making possibly some of the worst spins of ethicality right now, this is the best version of AI I could find, and even then, I wouldn't be too hot on a movie like this anyway. Some of the best things we can do in this current age is simply not participate, contribute, or finance these kind of AI models and productions. So when it's soon enough that there's gonna be AI movies, the best thing you can really do to combat it, the most ethical thing you can do, is simply just avoid it. Because the more we physically support this industry, the more it's going to poison real art, take away real jobs, and only scrape away the human artistry behind so many of the sources that these AI models greedily gather up. There you go. Following on from the arc of fully made AI animation commercials, we're moving beyond Coca-Cola and straight into McDonald's, one that has a personal grumble in my heart. You'll see, literally now. Wait, sorry, that was the wrong footage I was playing there. That's, a human-made McDonald's advert from 2002, and that child there, that's me! Literally, we've made it to the point where technically, AI has already stolen my job. Who needs human actors in McDonald's adverts anymore? Technically, I may be a small piece of the history of McDonald's. Former McDonald's actor, now replaced by AI. What does he have to say about it? I can't actually say because it's less than a minute into the video. But yes, believe it or not, this is the new AI-generated McDonald's Christmas ad. It is perhaps one of the most cursed looking ones and so egregiously cynical. Oh my god. It seems Coca-Cola isn't the only major player in the AI Christmas ad game anymore, and the fact that it's their longtime bedfellow McDonald's is hardly surprising. By the way, we're also going to shuffle in some human-made McDonald's adverts, so if it doesn't look like a snowy winter slop fest like this, it's probably made by humans. Ain't that great? If you asked me which non-tech corporation would be next on the slop ads, it would probably be McDonald's. Though currently, at least, a silver lining, this is specifically from the Netherlands arm of the country. So good to know that delusional AI tech bros are all across the globe. I guess they thought AI cost-cutting would make less of a noise in a relatively smaller country. Oops, they guessed wrong! For the biggest fast food chain in the world actively dabbling in AI, it's rather miraculous they managed to forget that the internet exists. I mean, me and my alternative accounts are keeping alive that old 2002 advert from earlier. But now this one is for sure gonna be a permanent stain on the McDonald's history mark, kicking out all other prospects for advertising actors, so I guess they're all gonna end up just like me, in theory. Anyway, my former employers have decided Coke was getting so much great publicity from their AI choices, so they of course need to get in on the action too. So well done them. And naturally, anyone with a brain could probably foresee this is getting all sorts of backlash, and it's actually worse than either of the Coke ones previously, which honestly takes some doing. I mean, with this year's Coke advert, it at least looks almost passable to an existentially depressing extent, namely in their avoiding of attempting to generate humans. But this one from McDonald's, it's all humans! There is not a single brain cell in the concept of this commercial. On so many layers, but we'll get through it all. And just to rub in how awful the actual human generation element is, they're largely doing things that are fairly easy to film actors doing anyway. It's nothing extreme. We're talking the likes of a family round the table for Christmas dinner. It's just awful. You had to replace that? At least in 2002, they had to find a giant child. But no, even beyond just the choice of human generation, and beyond the AI element in general, the whole concept of this ad is bafflingly cynical and miserable. The whole thing revolves around people hating festive traditions. So they just end up going to McDonald's instead. Like, how many people did this go through to be approved? One of the most beloved communal holiday seasons across the globe, and you're trying to reverse it as if it's actually horrible? Yeah, let's instead go to the fast food corporation that have been pushing record high prices with diminishing returns on the quality of the slop food they're sending out. Like, I'd almost get it if the burgers were still 99p, but they're not. They're the same price as king restaurants these days. And it's all presented in this commercial with a series of slop-generated misfortune playing out to the soundtrack of It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year. Except they've changed it to the most terrible time of the year. Kinda stealing the thunder from my terrible series there. It's the most perfectly cynical ad you could have asked AI for, which you could almost guarantee they did. There's no sense of artistic integrity in this either. You did not need to change the lyrics of this song, and it would be 1% better. Imagine if there was irony in this advert. It's the most wonderful time of the year, all the while someone's getting knocked over by a Christmas tree. Like, that at least has a semblance of integrity. Just outright directly saying it with what is, I would assume, AI vocals, or written lyrics at least, is just so delusional. It's just delusional that they thought this was a good idea, a good execution, and good in any direction, man. Because the concept of this commercial is so bad that even if this hadn't been generated, I think all of us still would have felt this ad just being miserable. And we haven't even gotten into the real AI element of it yet, because that's something else. Something to note here, at least in comparison to the Coca-Cola advert, is they actually have their in-house AI generating model called Real Magic AI. It explains why it looks kind of crappy because they're kind of hodgepodging it themselves, but at least it's, you know, able to progress over time and be customized. In this, there is no such watermark for it other than a tiny little corner piece saying #AI generated. By who? Is it just like OpenAI slop shoved in there? I wouldn't be surprised. It's even sloppier than Coke's AI is what I'm trying to say. If you couldn't already tell by the terrible visuals and the obvious mistakes. Why does the teddy bear come to life? The door on that tram certainly doesn't work. And even the editing, like the sound effect of the person breaking their coccyx, is a terrible sound effect just chucked in there and audio a little bit too loud. Like, it's just sloppily put together in every regard. This company, by the way, have made real human commercials as well, but one of them also includes Google Gemini's generative AI thing, so I would assume they're using that, or they have their own custom thing. Honestly, it's hard to find, and the lack of transparency is even worse. It's probably just some generic model they have attached. It's not custom made or in-house. I doubt it. Perfect that they call themselves The Disruption. That classic tech bro thing, you know? From the Netherlands. We start with a family in a rainy car, possibly one of the easiest shots in film. But no, they generated this shot of the creepiest children you've ever seen, who feel like they're looking right through the screen and at you. They don't really have seats either, they're just floating in the presence. The parents don't look much better, not even fulfilling the ad's miserable narrative. Like, surely they should at least look fed up in this shot, but they don't. Instead, they just kind of do kissy lips at each other. Gross. I guess this distracts them as their awfully animated presence on top of their car with non-moving wheels collides with a bridge. Not to mention the out-of-tune children singing the dreadful "Terrible Time." They then cut to a guy trying to cycle a tree up a slope. They love their cycling in the Netherlands, which makes me feel like it's these people's own fault they're not enjoying the holidays. You know those things you have to do at Christmas, like using a bicycle to get a tree up a hill. We then go to some carolers getting drenched outside a McDonald's, and like most AI slop, they can only hold that shot for a few seconds before it just looks weird. Don't look too closely at the humans further in the background. Before cutting to two adults smiling at each other as they fight over a teddy bear in a store. As that teddy bear sings to us, I guess. Is there a layer there? Is it meant to be the magic of Christmas means it's alive and has its own thoughts and feelings and it's upset with the pulling of things? Or are you supposed to be upset as the adults themselves trying to get a present when there's low demand? What's the point? And it just feels sinister that these two women still have that trademark blank AI smile as they fight over it. We then have Santa stuck in traffic who looks like the same AI Santa we've seen just across the board. Again, each shot's only a few seconds long with limited motion. There's not a well done AI model behind this engine. Although at least in the very next shot, they attempt an action shot of a Christmas tree smashing a guy out of his house as the rest of the family just lifelessly watch on. The intention is that the tree is being released when the strings cut, but the outcome is a horrific tree creature rapidly expanding in their house. They go wide for those action shots as it's clearly the least convincing. But then with the close-up of the guy, you can tell something about the snow's texture just isn't lining up right. Only further exemplified by the next shot, as snow seems to fall onto a person from a suspended cloud, which I think was supposed to be from a roof, and a person falling over on an ice rink, though I've already told you about the terrible sound design work there. The misfortune only continues with someone hanging from their house upside down in Christmas lights, accompanied by the most plain AI stock image of a snowman you've ever seen. Next up, we have the sloppiest shot yet of what's intended to be a woman's hood gets caught in the tram, but the results are just woman briefly gets cut in half by door before suddenly it morphs into just her hood being caught. We then go to the classic shot of a roast that's already been put on the table suddenly catching fire. They just hate it when that happens. Thankfully, the horrible looking AI family have a fire extinguisher on hand to sort things out. Unfortunately, this guy's decided to bake the animated cookies at the same time, and they look terrifying. Particularly as the singing cookie seems to be smiling at him as his buddies are burning. I'd say that's the most cursed thing that shows up, but then we have the fisheye shot of the grandparents laughing, and they look like demons about to suck out your soul. It's probably the closest thing to intentional that they got, just because they're playing off of the uncanniness that the AI model can slap out. Outside the close-ups themselves, I have no idea what they're doing, though. This teenage guy's just sat between his grandparents, yet it feels like they've all been generated separately. And the three characters here aren't scaled properly whatsoever. And like, what's the messaging here? Your grandparents having a laugh while they're alive and well sucks. Have a Big Mac instead until they're dead. We then have a cyclist getting splashed by a car that also looks like it was done separately. Special shout out to the parked car over there in the background that they've wedged between a tree and a lamppost. That's some parallel parking and a half. And the classic splat shot where the physics of the liquid look completely wrong. It's all the action shots where the AI truly outs itself. Like, this cat bringing down the tree is the worst looking shot yet. Just, I don't even know what those blurry humans in the background are meant to be doing. We're actually treated to 2 tree-based mishaps as they start to run out of ideas of how they could fill a 45-second ad with shots that can only be a couple of seconds long. Already they've run out of ideas. Geniuses at old Maccas. Until finally, the guy that got fired out of his family's house by a mutant Christmas tree finds McDonald's, which he's gone to by himself. How depressing. In this narrative, he didn't go back to his house, he just left. Actually, I don't blame him on that one. I doubt his family even had a face, considering we only saw the back of their heads. Before we cut to a couple having a laugh over their meal, content with abandoning that Christmas stuff to be avatars in an AI McDonald's instead. Ending with this message. And hide out in McDonald's till January. It is truly impressive to pull off something that is so cynically made on every level. It just outright says, Christmas is awful, go to McDonald's instead. That's not subtext, it's just saying that directly. And for all the criticism you can have about Christmas commercialism, the thing this AI-fueled ad leads into is largely the family traditions instead. So we have an ad made by artificial intelligence, portraying human behavior and connection as a negative and telling us to give our money to McDonald's instead at a time when economically we're all in crisis and McDonald's prices have never been higher. This is a true chef's kiss in cynical advertising. It just completely outdoes either of the Coca-Cola adverts and is possibly one of the worst adverts I have ever seen. And I'm not just saying that because I used to be in one and I've lost a job now. It's fine, I never had a real job after that anyway. Also kind of ironic that here in the UK, they've instead launched the Grinch meal, and the advertising's been based around that instead. And over in Japan, it's a couple of VTubers. Meanwhile, in the Netherlands, they've done essentially what the Grinch would use AI to create. Let alone the hypocrisy of licensing a character from one of the greatest imaginations out there in Dr. Seuss, only to endorse the antithesis of that in another country. And I do just hate that I'm not surprised in the slightest. We all know that McDonald's is just a gross corporation who wouldn't say no to a lot of objectionable stuff. In fact, I think they've already had AI posters in a lot of UK stores, at least, that, you know, interior design choice of theirs. So no surprises here, I guess. When asked about the motive of this downbeat take on the holidays, the marketing manager of McDonald's Netherlands simply said, "December is a busy month for everyone." Trying to deflect, of course, from the ridiculous idea that they were saying, "Christmas sucks, buy an expensive burger." He then genuinely says, "We want to give people something to look forward to each day, and this campaign gives that idea to life in a new way." My guy, there isn't even a single cell of life in any of the people we see on screen. The guy who claims they made this film would beg to differ, though. We have yet another European company behind this Slop show, that being the Amsterdam-based advertising firm TBWA/Neboco. To the criticism, the directors of the ad responded, "AI didn't make this film, we did." Where you're artistically void and your integrity is null. Hey, I guess it's thirsty work typing 10 to 15 prompts to create something. And allegedly, it took them 7 weeks to do that, so... Wow, you're terrible at your jobs as well. I just think this is the perfect AI commercial. It just wraps all of the concept up in a little bubble. Uh-oh, another AI bubble. There's no false sentiment like in the Coke ones. The message of the ad perfectly matches the soullessness of the technology, let alone the company who commissioned it. Ironically enough, I am actually one who's avoiding the family traditions of Christmas this year. I'm gonna be working over Christmas and then having a big New Year's off. And even still, this commercial is so far off the mark of my take on Christmas this year. And though I recently made a full dissection of how you could possibly do AI ethically, I think this is the prime example of one of the most unethical versions of AI you could produce. And I just love the levels of delusion that must have been behind the creatives behind this. To think there'd be no backlash to AI, to think people would be on board with buy from corporation and avoid the family traditions of Christmas. Not to mention the lack of quality, consistency, or artistic integrity. This thing puts a smile on my face because I love covering terrible stuff. And this has to be the most terrible advert of the year. And moving on back to the old Disney arc, we started earlier in the year with a lawsuit against Midjourney, moved over to they're going to accept AI onto their own platform, and now outright investing, combining, and doing business with OpenAI themselves. A full arc going on in the background of this year. Dreadful news, it connects to the Sora thing earlier. This is the latest we have at the end of the year with Disney and AI. Come and see. Oh, great. So now, in the latest AI news, Disney is partnering with OpenAI in order to bring their characters over to Sora. This is not the headline I was expecting to see, especially since there was a lawsuit they were gunning against each other earlier in the year. But I guess it was inevitable, wasn't it? Disney has been on a bit of an AI streak lately. Just a few weeks back, the company made public its plans to bring generative AI versions of their characters to their Disney Plus platform. And now, Disney has announced the next stepping stone towards that as they are partnering with OpenAI to bring their characters to the company's Sora model. I did not intend to talk about AI twice this week again. It seems AI news keeps coming in waves, whether it's the new fully AI McDonald's advert a couple days ago, or now this. I hate keeping up with some of these trends. And this news comes despite the fact that Disney had a lawsuit against AI company Midjourney earlier this same year. And that was all about the unsanctioned use of Disney's IP in Midjourney's generation. Back then, Disney teamed up with Universal to sue the company and keep their IPs from being infringed upon through AI generation. But I guess now that stance has changed entirely, because in a move that the New York Times calls a watershed for Hollywood, they're partnering with a rival, OpenAI, instead. The big bad of the AI industry. And with Disney backing comes Disney IP, officially packaged and ready to be used. And there's more to it than just that. According to OpenAI themselves, the 3-year AI deal is an agreement which marks a significant step in setting meaningful standards for responsible AI in entertainment. Yeah, sure. It's branded as a way to set responsible standards for AI. But what does that even mean? What does that even look like? Is it just content moderation around the use of Disney's AI characters? Because frankly, they're already being used to create videos on the platform, licensed or not. Where do you think I'm getting all this shuffled footage from? Well, at least fortunately for us in this case, OpenAI does go on to list some specifics about the deal on their page. So hey, great to see some transparency. How bad can it possibly be? Let's look at these terms now. As part of this 3-year licensing agreement, Sora will be able to generate short, user-prompted social videos that can be viewed and shared by fans, drawing on more than 200 Disney, Marvel, and Pixar and Star Wars characters. Agreement will make a selection of these fan-inspired Sora short-form videos available to stream on Disney+. So basically, this is the engine behind that Disney Plus AI generation platform. What, you thought they were gonna make an AI model for themselves? No, of course not. What do you think? This is a company that creates art? This is Disney we're talking about. It's Disney doing what they do best. Not making something in-house. Making someone else do it. I mean, hey, they listed for a reason Marvel and Pixar and Star Wars. It's not the mainline stuff. Well, also Disney stuff's in there, but you get the idea. And, you know, this often ends with Disney buying them entirely by the end of it anyway. Though that does make me wonder, as much as I hate it, is Disney gonna buy OpenAI one day like they did with Pixar? Ironically, on the business front of the AI space race right now, OpenAI is the one in the biggest trouble, with the likes of Google Gemini taking in a lot of their grounds, and OpenAI being their own solo project that's not making a lot of profits. So being able to take a stake from Disney is a plus right now, which we'll talk about more in a moment, but also maybe the ending is they crumble down and Disney just inhales them. Oh god, Disney, one of the mainline AI companies in the future. Because you see, according to OpenAI themselves, as part of the agreement, Disney will make a $1 billion equity investment in OpenAI and receives warrants to purchase additional equity. What dystopian times? Your Disney Plus subscription is actively funding OpenAI now? Or just you watching a Disney movie? Your money is going into AI. As if it wasn't already, let's be honest. Still, that is maddening. Outright $1 billion investment on top of all this? It's not just that Disney is teaming up with Sora AI, they're buying a part of it too. It's literally just like Pixar or Lucasfilm back in the day. Or maybe more like Epic and Unreal Engine. But, you know, it's way more untested technology this time, rapidly hated by the masses, and so far not really making a profit. So, not to mention all sorts of horrendous ethical implications, and maybe a good old, if we're lucky, chance of all of your workers striking for their art is now being stolen and slapped into a blender machine. Like, what a middle finger to all of the artists over the last 100 years that this company has been lifted up and become a pillar of. And if you think for a second that Disney, of all companies, is gonna be using this ethically, you've gotta be kidding yourself. After all, it looks like they're probably jumping right into it to replace animators. In fact, there's even murmurings going around of them dropping a full AI film by 2028. We haven't properly done a dedicated video on this yet. It's only rumors, but it's something. See, according to Disney Animation CCO Jared Bush, a new Disney animated film with a very different style is in the works to release around then. Now, we don't know much about this, but this concept combined with this recent news is... it's concerning, isn't it? While a lot of people are speculating this may be a return to 2D, many are also guessing that it may well be using AI to interpolate between frames as a way of making 2D animation more financially viable for the company, and a reason why they would go back to their old school style. There's already all sorts of examples of AI already hitting that old Disney style, and Disney just invested in them themselves. So the likelihood that it's just gonna be fully AI now is getting much more higher. Jeffrey Katzenberg of DreamWorks Acclaim was saying that he is expecting AI to take 90% of animation jobs in the next 3 years, and well, this could be exactly the reason why. Likely having the exact same perspective as another CEO as Bob Iger is to Disney right now, and the way he talks about Disney as a company in his his earnings meetings means he's 100% running with that idea and actually making it happen, where dreams do come true. 90% kick off your workers, replace with the AI, dreams come true. Oh god, I hate this. But as for this new Disney feature, the only thing we actually know about this film directly is what Bush has to say about it, whereby he says, it's not a human world, it's a very different style than we usually do. So like, if it's not a new IP along the lines of Tron or Wreck-It Ralph or an animal movie like Zootropolis, well, then I wonder what else it could be if it's not human. But specifying that it's not a human world isn't promising, you know? And there's reason to believe that even if the next movie isn't entirely generated, AI is gonna have a massive hand in every Disney production going forwards. Alongside the licensing agreement, Disney will become a major customer of OpenAI, using its APIs to build new products, tools, and experiences, including for Disney Plus and deploying ChatGPT for its employees. That is, all of that is horrible. Products, so that means merch. Tools, so that might be the animation. Experiences makes me think parks. And deploying ChatGPT for its employees? What questions are they asking? Write me a film? Give me lyrics to a villain who's got to sing about this is the thanks I get? Like, the implications are worst case scenario. We might be looking at an animation studio imploding on itself. Or worse, not. This kind of rhetoric is basically confirmation that, yeah, everything Disney does on a corporate level going forwards is gonna be done hand in hand with their new AI tech sponsors at OpenAI, who would be 100% willing to let AI run through all of this creative process. Which is just crazy, to be honest, from the Disney. It makes sense though, right? They're just seeing this as a new tool, very much from an elitist standpoint of full efficiency, financial profit, and out-of-touch unawareness that everyone generally hates AI. With connections to all the gold men at the top saying, oh, AI is great, look at all these benefits, I'm a tech bro in the middle of Hollywood, it makes sense that Mr. Hollywood, Mr. Disney would have the very same thoughts. But chances are, in chasing the cheapest possible film production budgets, these tools are going to be doing the vast majority of the creative lifting, and in a sense, undoing and de-emphasizing the work of the humans that made the company great in the first place. And hopefully, that just means it all crumbles within its place by the end. Hey there, thank you for making it to the halfway mark of this video. Come subscribe if you haven't already for more anti-AI news. Unfortunately, they come in batches every few weeks, but if no more murmurings come out, then we'll go back to our regularly covered human content. We recovered Willy's Wonderland this week, and also the Netflix and Warner Brothers merger murmurs, so I guess it's terrible all along the place. A lot of business this week. But for now, let's get back to the second half of this video. You know how it says they're going to be building new tools? Part of that is the AI models themselves. Not only is Disney supporting the construction of these models with this deal, official Disney content probably will be used now in order to train models as well, if you think about it that way. Which doesn't mean much, I guarantee they were doing it unofficially beforehand. But the end result is still all of these brilliant artists from Disney, present and past, are being absolutely screwed over for what is their life's work at what was once their dream job. Brother Bear is going to be blended down to become the regurgitation of some future animal movie, all the while the original creator of Brother Bear likely doesn't consent to any of it and is just happily going along with his own test footage of a spiritual successor. At the end here, OpenAI's site claims that Disney and OpenAI affirm a shared commitment to responsible use of AI that protects the safety of users and the rights of creators. So, standard stuff, really, and probably not that safe or responsible. I guess it's a way of saying that they're trying to avoid things like the Zootopia abortion comic animations and the like that, whilst at the same time, it also sounds like the way this is going to happen is that all of the mess is handled on OpenAI's site, business as usual, but the company will take their favorites or maybe the most popular generated videos and put them up officially on Disney+, at least based off of the wording during this announcement. So does that mean that there's going to be a real human job in a Disney guy having to watch a bunch of Disney slop to decide which is slop and which is not too sloppy. There's an official sloppy seconds Disney guy. Yeah, welcome to the dream, kid. Are you an artist? Oh, put your pencils down. So they're gonna be taking and monetizing fan AI generation through Disney Plus subscriptions, as well as fully indulging in AI tools themselves. And this kind of makes sense. They've stolen fan art in the past. See, for example, the recent controversy with the Star Wars fight scene, in which the choreography is pretty one-to-one. Nice one, Disney. But with this, it's just so weird. I hesitate to even call what they're taking as fan art, since it's just prompting in a generator, but you get what I mean. It's more so fan slop than fan art, but either way, it's going straight onto the Disney Plus platform. And I guess when you just endlessly consume garbage like that, the best case scenario is you end up with the beginning of WALL-E. That's the future I see for Disney Plus. But it doesn't stop here either, because beyond just the terms of the agreement, OpenAI goes on to talk about the implications of this deal. Ah, great. Stop, he's already dead. It's just so scary for the industry, man. According to them, the Walt Disney Company and OpenAI have reached an agreement for Disney to become the first major content licensing partner on Sora, OpenAI's short-form generative AI video platform, bringing these leaders in creativity and innovation together to unlock new possibilities in imaginative storytelling. Did you catch that? The first major content licensing partner on Sora. As in, there could be others. Sure, maybe they are just putting out their feelers with this announcement, hoping someone like DreamWorks wants to come groveling along. Or maybe there already are others. Maybe all of the animation industry has already fallen suit, kissing the toes of OpenAI, hoping to stay alive in this economic turmoil caused solely by themselves and their lack of creativity. Either way, it feels like this is the moment that the animation industry has fully broken open the AI floodgates. It really is a watershed moment for Hollywood. If things go well for Disney from this, it might mean AI is gonna be embedded in animation forever. But if Disney's stock and success falters following this announcement, if Disney artists and workers decide to unionize and go on strike as a response to their work being shucked away from them like this, maybe there's a chance that AI can be expelled from the animation workflow. At least up front. We don't have a lot of power as individual people beyond pirating the films you want to see and not supporting financially subscriptions. But perhaps we'll even find on the workers' side of things more uproar, more backlash, and maybe more union strikes. Because in my mind, otherwise, there really isn't anything else to help beyond waiting for that elusive AI bubble to pop in the first place. But even then, if the deal's already done, it's here to stay. And soon, it might well be seriously hard to tell what is human work and what is not. At least without looking behind the scenes. And I am not excited for that day to arrive. OpenAI says on their page that under license, fans will be able to watch curated selections of Sora-generated videos on Disney Plus, and OpenAI and Disney will collaborate to utilize OpenAI's models to power new experiences for Disney Plus subscribers, furthering innovative and creative ways to connect with Disney's stories and characters. Sora and ChatGPT images are expected to start generating fan-inspired videos with Disney's multi-brand licensed characters in early 2026. So the official Disney AI slop starts early next year. What a great way to start the new one, eh? As for Disney, CEO Bob Iger said the following. The rapid advancement of artificial intelligence marks an important moment for our industry, and through this collaboration with OpenAI, we will thoughtfully and responsibly extend the reach of our storytelling through generative AI, while respecting and protecting creators, and their works. Right. Bringing together Disney's iconic stories and characters with OpenAI's groundbreaking technology puts imagination and creativity directly into the hands of Disney fans in ways we've never seen before, giving them richer and more personal ways to connect with the Disney characters and stories they love. Ugh, that quote is just so slimy. I did the first take impressioning him like he was a toad, but it didn't sound very good. Basically, the executive wants to see more content pushed out based on Disney IP, and he sees AI as the best way to do it. And most importantly, he sees using fans to generate it as an easy option that is basically free. Why pay a team of animators when you could just get fans to do it for you? And of course, Sam Altman, co-founder and CEO of OpenAI, and the orchestrator of this whole mess, somehow not fully bled out of his money just yet, is overjoyed. Disney is the global gold standard for storytelling, and we're excited to partner to allow Sora and ChatGPT images to expand the way people create and experience great content. All the while, just recently he said that OpenAI is deeply in trouble. Surely he knew about this deal while taking that into consideration, right? Probably not a good sign they're even going to survive 3 years, if you ask me. One can hope. Of course he's excited to get his AI model's grubby virtual hands all over Disney's IP. And while there will be restrictions, reportedly no drugs, sex, alcohol, or interactions with characters owned by other media companies, for instance, that doesn't mean that anything about how they are used won't still just be slop. Disney is no longer a place where storytelling is sacred. But I guess we've known that for a good long while. It's more so about seeing how bad and direct this backlash really gets. Though I guess if there's at least one loser in this whole thing, it's of course gotta be Midjourney. To get sued over this right before the company gets handed the keys to the Magic Kingdom must be a burn. It's the first AI company that's likely gonna crumble during this space race. And hopefully all the others eventually follow suit too. Because this isn't art. This is an insult. And if we're lucky, all this AI investment for a 3-year long hold crashes and burns for Disney anyway. And then maybe it's an actual win for all of us. Though I'm awfully worried that won't be the case. And finally, gosh, what a big year that was. That is a cohesive-ish 12-month wrap-up of all the developments of AI, specifically in the field of animation over the years. I think this could be an interesting little time capsule of how AI is and how the response is early doors. The way I see it, there's still going to be all sorts of public opinion in the bin and a lot of not profitability going on, especially in the overall AI space. Unfortunately, I do think AI animation can be very profitable and is very much already here waiting to replace workers. A lot of general AI stuff I can kind of point and laugh at because it's not actually going well for them. And it sucks as well that when they do inevitably all go down, we go down with them. But with this story very clearly not being the end of it, and 2026 of course coming with all sorts of other bombshells, there is still hope that this thing will be rejected, unsuccessful, and eventually lost to time. Because while there's been an invasive development of AI along the way, there will always be people like me grumbling and critiquing all along the way as well. These videos have been some of the most successful I've made this year, and it's clear because it really strikes to people's attention, and probably a little bit of rage, you know? If there are so many like-minded people like me, and probably you, then chances are this isn't really gonna be as successful as all the business bros are trying to make happen with their wishes of investment money. There will be things that work, there will be problems to grumble about, but I don't think it's entirely the end of the world yet, and I think we'll be seeing all sorts of more AI failures in the next year. Or maybe I'm just feeling optimistic because I'm recording this right around Christmas. Whatever the case, that is our long-form compilation time capsule of the development of AI in year 1? Do we call this year 1? Sure. For now, though, I'd best finally end it off there. My name's been Daz. Thank you very much for reaching the end of this compilation. Do tell us your thoughts on the developments of AI. What year are you watching this in, and is it relevant or irrelevant? I mean, I'll know by the time you know that, but, you know, whatever. I'd love to hear all your thoughts and more, or any dissections and predictions you may have. But otherwise, I shall see you all in a little bit. Cheerio!